only showing four participants on, is that right?
Yes, but in the at the table here, we have Matt, Isaac, Ivano, Cindy, and Rick, so we have quorum.
Okay, thanks.
Thanks for joining, Sue, Jeanette, and Andrea.
No, it's Michael.
Michael, sorry. Thanks for joining, folks, online. Thanks to the people that are here. We have some visitors, which is great to see our members join us, so welcome. I'm going to call the meeting to order and open the general meeting. Do I have someone to move the agenda? Matt, seconder. Isaac? Any errors, omissions, deletions, additions, adjustments to the agenda? Sorry, was that Jeanette? Did you have a change you wanted to make?
No, I didn't say anything.
That's okay, thank you. Sorry, Jeanette, for calling you up, but okay. All in favor?
Yes.
Sue?
Oh, not Sue, Michael.
Oh, sorry, Michael?
Yes.
Carried. Okay, any declaration of conflicts? Hearing none, we'll move on. Approval of the minutes. What was sent out with the package is the minutes of August 27. Any adjustments to those minutes? Those minutes are online as well, right?
No,
Recorded.
they don't get put online until they're accepted, yeah.
Right, but we have a video
Approved.
that goes with that, right?
Yeah, the video is already up, I believe.
Yeah, okay,
I
great.
believe the video is up, but we don't put the minutes up until they've been approved.
Great. Any changes, adjustments, deletions? Hearing none, can I get somebody to move acceptance of the minutes from the board meeting of August 27th? Sure. Rick, a seconder. Cindy, thank you. All in favor?
Yes.
Michael?
Yes.
Carried, thank you. Report of the chair. Thanks again for everyone at this board, especially. We are here once again online and in person, being challenged with the second wave. And there's been a lot of work done between the last meeting and this meeting around setting up budget, engaging membership, and handing out the survey, putting out the AGM notice, getting feedback and adjusting and making changes to create a second draft of a budget for 2021. I thank everybody around the table and even thank the members for providing the input. Feedback is extremely important. We know it will be a challenge for us simply because we are in challenging times and we're in that second wave of challenge right now as we speak, and it's hard to figure out where this thing will take us into 2021, but the feedback is certainly definitely a big priority and important for us. So thanks to everyone who put the time and effort and the work to get us where we are here. The other thing I'll note is we had the students that were with us for the summer leave. They did a great job helping with all the work we just talked about, especially the survey, compiling the results, producing the report, and putting together the information in a package for our members and our stakeholders to review. So thanks to them. They would be Roger and Peyton. And we have welcomed, and I think I'll leave that to Angela to identify the 3 interns that are with us that will continue to stay with us at least for a couple of months to finish off their work term, which is fantastic news for us. It means, again, many hands make for lighter work for all of us. So I'm certainly grateful that they're on board as well. So I'll let Angela take care of that. Other than that, there's nothing else to report between the last meeting and this meeting. Under new business, we'll have a couple of items, but we'll move. Any questions? Hearing none. Report of the director or on the administration. Angela?
So as Ivana said, we have 3 new students. 2 are field placement students from Durham College. They're in the Leisure Studies program. And I believe they've got 120 hours to complete. So they're coming in mainly on Tuesdays. We have them drafting budgets for events and doing research for events, whether it's used for 2021 or 2022, at least we'll have some things in place. And then the third individual was one of the capstone students from one of the 5 groups, contacted us about doing an internship. So we of course told them that we have no money that we could contribute towards anything, and he's still quite happy to come and do things. So, so we've aligned what he's doing with things that we need, but also where his interests lie, so that both of us get the best impact. And he's coming in Mondays generally, for a few hours, just to touch base and let us know what he's done and report the research that he's done. You know, it's the only other main thing for us is, well, there's a couple of things. In this building on Monday, there'll be 27 new people. Priority 1 is moving in over the weekend. Priority 1 is the people that purchased this building. They've done their renovations upstairs, and so they will be moving in on Monday. But with that, we have to move a lot of our stuff that's in the basement out, because they've identified that where our stuff is, there's a leak, and you know, stuff that was we were supposed to get stuff out of there. They want to build a lab down there as well. So with that, on Monday, and I'm putting a call out to anyone who knows of anyone who can volunteer or help. We have over 60 Muskoka chairs. We have the glow swings. There might be some other things that we might have to put in the storage containers as well. But while we're doing that, we're also going to take the opportunity to take one of the igloos and set it up. We need to figure out how long it takes, for one. We need to take pictures, because if we want members to be able to use it, we need to have pictures of what it looks like and the size, so that we can actually, you know, take the dimensions and tell them. So someone had suggested, you know, maybe someone like Avanti's could use it and extend their outdoor patio, or have it as an outdoor sort of patio during the winter, and they have propane heaters inside, so that they can still be serving and expand the number of people that they can still accommodate. So we need to do that. So starting at 9:30 on Tuesday, we'll have a cube van here, and we'll be loading that up. So we're really looking for volunteers who are able-bodied and can help us with the building and stuff. We do need people that have the ability to lift things that are quite heavy. I know that the containers that these igloos came in are over 1,000 pounds. And most of that is the material inside, because the plywood from these containers is not very thick. The other thing, when
Isaac and I can just throw that up in the air for you.
oh yeah, the other thing is that when we do that, when we empty the one to set it up, we're going to flip the container upside down and put casters on it, so that it's easier to move them. And then we'll put the one from behind into that one and just keep going until we can make sure that all of these containers can be moved easily, because the way they are right now, you need to be tailor sized to try to get through, because there's literally this much space between the wall and the container on either side. I didn't put it over to one side, and there's no way that I could ever dream of moving that. So that's pretty much my update as well.
Any questions, Matt?
Where are we moving the items to?
So our containers are, where they, Oshawa Power has generously donated space for us to have our 2 containers. So they are behind Walmart on their yard.
Okay.
So, and we have to arrange to have the key and things like that in order to do it. So
And again, this was Walmart South, right?
yes, behind Steven, off of Stevenson.
Yeah.
Yeah. But if you do know of anyone, have them contact me so that we can coordinate. And
Any other questions? Andrew, just maybe, Rick, go ahead.
Did you ever hear back from Derek Irish?
I haven't yet, but I will reach out to him again.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that could be a source of people who want to give back.
Yeah, like if we can, but still, we need a minimum of, I'm expecting a minimum of 10 to 12 to do this, right? Because, while two people are working on the inside, moving the ones into the other containers, flipping over and putting canisters, we need at least 8 people working on the other.
Okay. It's not as if they don't have that many down at Mission United, so.
No, but it's making sure that someone can come and do it, right?
Okay.
Any update in terms of activities at the office? We've been open for a while. We've got
Oh.
the second wave coming through. We had a lot of requests. To the first wave of COVID, any insight as to what's going on there?
Well, we are working with the city on a project that you brought forward. So we do have a plan in place for the second wave. We created that in the summer. So we do have a plan in place in case it does get worse. And one of the things on that plan, we're working with the city and it looks like it's going to go through. Not 100% sure, but Sue and I went around yesterday and looked at some things, and I know that Sue is pushing it forward on the end of the city, getting it moved forward. The other thing is it's starting a grant season, right?
For our grant applications.
Yeah, so we've got the anchor grant that's due tomorrow. And then I'm waiting to hear about the Celebrate grant. We renewed the application or the subscription to Grant Station. It's like $113 for the year, but last year we got a $10,000 grant from having that application in. So they provide a whole bunch of other sources for grants. And so when I get a breather, I'm going to sit down or that may even be something that we get the intern to scour through and see where we can apply for different grants.
Is this something we ask, maybe put a call out to the membership? I don't know what kind of skills we have out there. You guys know them better than I do. I know some of them. Maybe there's some people that can take on one application, because we're going to count on this other revenue to really make our numbers work.
Yeah.
Which means we got to up our game plan there.
Yeah.
And it starts with the volume. Get us
Well, we
many out
already
there as you
have
can.
one grant secured for next year, because we actually got it for this year, but because the event was canceled, we've been able to punt it forward to next year. And then one grant, partnership. I need to refrain from calling it a grant. It's a partnership with Central Counties. It starts October 1st, and we have to use it by the end of March. So we do have a bit of funds there already. So if we use it now, it doesn't count towards next year. But if we wait until January, whatever, then it will count.
So Sue, I'm kind of thinking of the city. Maybe there's some good resources there, or we maybe talk to Peter and getting those, or anybody here who knows anyone who's got the skills and ability to put together. I'm going to tell you, engineers are worse at this, so don't get them. But can't write worth a damn. But yeah, no, getting someone who can actually put together, a pretty good proposal, I think is the key. We want a quality application, and if we can get one, but we certainly need the numbers. We need the numbers of applications.
For one of the things that we need is to find out where the grants are that we qualify for too, right? Once we get that, then we can start working on them.
So let's work on a process. I mean, if you can sort through that, and then we got hands and we can hand these things off and then watch the quality control, I think we need this. We need this to work for us.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, last year we got $40,000 worth of grants.
I think the other piece is big partnerships. Grants are a lot stronger when they're in partnership. So
Yeah.
looking
Yes.
at who,
Community partnerships, yeah.
looking at who we can join forces with, and perhaps share the workload of the application.
That doesn't always work, but
No,
trust me, because we've done that
that's-
before, but
That's a good point. I mean, if they're like getting a partner may qualify you for another grant that you may not otherwise qualify for. That's actually a really good point.
Yeah.
Okay, so we need a game plan around this, because we've got the runway in time right now to get going. And I got the governments are going to hand out stuff because, again, with the second wave, there seems to be a lot of announcements. Sorry, Mike, you were saying so, Michael?
I think it's Sue.
Or Sue?
I must have my morning voice and sound like Michael today.
Sorry, Sue.
That's okay. No, I was just going to say that and Cindy will know this quite well. It's definitely a skill set for grant writing. I don't know if maybe Councillor Kirk can chime in. I don't know if there's any specialties for doing that in the city. I do know it's interesting. You've got a member in the BIA, the old Kinsman Hall, the optometrist. And I'm trying to think of her name for a second. She's applied for some CIPs and been very successful on all the renovations. And she's had like one of the best grant applications to CIP. When I asked her about them, she said she has a close friend who does all the grant writing and has helped her. You know, it might be worthwhile to reach out to a member, someone like her. I can touch base with her and see if she could help out.
That'd be great. Thank you for that, Sue.
I just thought, and it'll come to me her name, but I'll reach out, and then Angela set you up with her. She's been phenomenal with the CIPs, and she's a great person. I can't see her. Probably she would have to ask for a friend to help out, but that's what her friend does, is the grant applications.
Great. Thank you for that, Sue.
Hey, you're welcome.
Any other questions? Jeanette, anything?
No,
Michael?
thank you.
All good here.
Great. Thanks for that update, Angela. Board administrative issues.
Do we want to accept
The updates?
Yeah.
Why don't we do the administrative issues, and then we'll accept 6, 7, and 8, is that because they're all
Yep.
information, right?
Yep.
It's not in your package, but I sent it out under separate email. You saw the mayor's letter to us with respect to the activities around improving safety and security. We've been very vocal about safety security being a top membership issue, and we've been very active with him and a few others and supporting him in his request or his quest for improving security in the downtown. Namely, his latest activity has been in front of the Durham Regional Police Services, but he's also been doing other work. So he's written a letter back to us after we've put our request to him, identifying what's happened, and he's an advocate and is happy to come to the table if we'd like him to give us an update, but that letter is the update. Angela, I'd like to make sure we post that and send that out with the minutes and whatever. The other thing I sent to you were 2 letters, 2 draft letters for your input and feedback. If you don't mind, I'd like to get them out. They're letters from the BIA, the board, us, to both our MPP, Jennifer French, and our MP, Colin Carey, just asking for their direction, support around the same issues, improving safety and security. I think the approach we took, thanks to Isaac and Cindy, around crafting the words and the approach, it really is with the provincial, it's mental health and addiction, so it's Ministry of Health trying to secure resources. With the feds, it's really around, there is, I don't know if it's a Ministry of Health, there is a health advocacy group in there. The Chief Medical Officer of Health has got a mental health and addictions initiative, and to see if there's any funding in there we can have access to. So that's kind of the approach. Yes, we don't have the right colors in our representatives for the 2 governments, but at the end of the day, at least we put our hand out and put our names up there. I think they have to advocate on our behalf. It's a serious issue our members are telling us. So if you're good with those letters, let me know. If you want changes, just edit them directly and send them back. We'd like to get them out as soon as possible. Lastly, we have the Mayor's Economic Recovery Task Force. Angela's touched on a couple of issues I brought to the table that they're working on, at least in the second wave. But in the first wave, all the activities that have taken place to support the components, that some of it we've taken on here with the Troubadour series, others in terms of opening up restaurants and patios and those kinds of things have worked really well. If you have anything that you want me to bring forward on behalf of the membership, let me know. That's tomorrow. And again, we advocate for our members at that function. So that's all I have for administrative issues. Any questions? Rick?
You mentioned the concern of downtown members about security and vandalism and crime and so forth. Can you summarize what the feedback has been to the 3-month security contract that the city put out with CDN Protection for the downtown?
Yeah, and that's a great question, because I think we asked, well, we actually have a survey out on the food distribution issue, because that's another issue related to somewhat the unsheltered population. So there's many issues around that. That survey, I think, is closed, or is it still open, Angela?
It's still open. I
Still-
think we got one last night. We got
We had probably like 4 answers.
So that one's still ongoing, but your point, I think we covered off in other surveys. Either Angela or Taylor, do you want to give them a quick rundown on the specific Canadian securities?
We didn't send out a specific survey, but we've talked to a lot of members in person. Two things stand out in my mind. Initially, when they were hired, a lot of people didn't know. We did one of our quarterly calls, and that was one of the topics, and a lot of people didn't have the phone number, didn't know about them. So we made them aware, and then since then, and since the contract has ended, a lot of people have given feedback that they liked that extra security. That
Give
they
reasons why.
Part was moving people along, off of front doorsteps and stuff like that. Just feeling safer walking around at night when they were closing down their business for the day, leaving, that kind of thing. So everyone that I've talked to, I've encouraged them to talk or send a letter to City Hall or the mayor, and they've expressed that they were going to do so.
Yeah, and same with me. Excuse me, same with me. Everyone that I've talked to that has commented about the security or Canadian protection, my advice to them was to call the mayor's office and let them know, because I knew that the mayor was looking for feedback on that.
Yeah, because you understand the cities had some feedback from the other perspective on this as well. So
Yep.
I think it's good to encourage people to give all
feedback.
perspectives on
Yep.
this, because we've certainly heard from those who were quite negative about
Yep.
the security. Okay, thank you.
Great, thanks. Any other questions on the update? Open issues? Online, Jeanette,
No, thank you.
Michael?
He's on mute.
Okay. Sue, anything from the feedback on your end in terms of what you're seeing at City Hall with the Canadian protection? I know you've seen a lot of the one side that Rick was describing when it first was launched. Anything from your end in terms of update on that issue?
It's just that we had a meeting. We had a meeting late yesterday afternoon with the Welcoming Streets, our steering committee. So it wasn't really a lot about CDN, but just I think a couple of comments in the beginning. According to Kim Lapine and her team, what they're really seeing is there is a lot of confusion over the role of the outreach workers. So, and it's funny, I had a meeting later with a business owner who was quite upset about what we're talking about is the crime rate in downtown Oshawa, not feeling safe, is that people are thinking that it's the role of the outreach workers. And so our next step right now after our meeting is to really work on more communication, because they're not, there's a bit of a rumor going around that everyone's coming to Oshawa because they're getting free drugs, needles, and food. And they're blending the outreach workers into that. And just an FYI, and I don't know if the board's aware of it, but as of maybe 2 weeks ago, the mayor has had the outreach workers pull back from Memorial Park. There's a concern for safety. And so while they're going through all of this to improve the safety, they want them out of, so it's hard on the outreach workers because they really want to help everyone, but they have to have their safety first. So they've been pulled back from that.
Well, I have a front row view of that. You guys know that. And
Yeah.
I can tell you the effect has been not very good, not having support people there for sure. Not that I'm arguing to have or not have them. There's been an escalated level of activity in the park. It's unfortunate, but it's the reality. So if you want some feedback, I don't know that I would say they're mutually connected, but certainly I can tell you the activity is amped up in terms of not so good activity anyways.
No, you're right. And there has to be more security, which they're working on more security in Memorial Park, but the safety of the outreach workers is paramount, as we all know. So they have to be removed from Memorial Park at this point.
Okay, thanks for that.
You're welcome.
Yeah, go ahead, Rick.
So I have a few things to say about the Memorial Park situation. The city also took the picnic tables out of the park prior to September the 1st. And I think the effort there was to prevent some additional forms of loitering in the park. I understand in one respect why the support workers were taken away, but my view is, I thought they had a pretty good work relationship with the people that they're trying to serve. So anyway, so I'll just leave that alone because the decision has been made, but I'm not sure that's in the best interest of those people who actually need the help. That's just my view. The other point is there's been a lot of consternation about the whole food delivery, clothing delivery situation going on at Memorial Park. And for the last month, and before that, I've been working on potential solutions to this. I had one, and I'm not going to give details. I've been hammered about this by a certain counselor on Facebook because of lack of detail. I'm not going to give details because it's like the boy who cried wolf. If you give details and you think you have a great solution, then it doesn't work. The next time you come up with one, oh yeah, sure, right? But I had what I thought was a really good solution. The city was on side, the Life Network people were on side. There was another entity that was to be involved, and ultimately they chose not to be. And unfortunately, that torpedoed the whole thing. So now I'm working on another one. Again, I have the city 100% on side. John Walker from the Life Committee Project says he can speak for them, but he can't speak for the other groups that are involved with him in that food delivery service. And I haven't heard word yet. But again, it's a potentially terrific solution, and it would add more and different types of services in a hub for people that need it. I don't think there'll be anything like it in Canada. I think it has tremendous potential, but I have to get everybody to buy in. And thank you, Ivano, because you've been very supportive. Details aren't important right now, but if it works and it can happen, then I think we've created a non-conflict oriented solution to what's going on largely at Memorial Park. If that happens, then the only people that will be left there will be those doing criminal activities. And the mayor has been very strong with Durham Regional Police to get more, not only presence, but arrests wherever possible. Again, details I'm not going to go into, but I guess the comment I will make is, a lot of people have been pointing the finger at City Hall and the city council for supposedly not doing enough. And that just can't be that's the furthest thing from the truth. Where the finger should be pointing is at the drug dealers who are poisoning people in this city, and why people aren't getting together and chasing these people out on a rail out of town, I don't know. I just don't know. And if we got rid of the people who are dealing the drugs and peddling pain and death, frankly, we had 43 overdose deaths in Oshawa last year. And not many people know that. And why these people aren't run out of town on a rail, I don't know. And it's very difficult for the police to do. That's a long story too, but they're upping their efforts. So again, this is a very complicated situation. The food service right now is not going to be interrupted. I'm going to say one more thing because it's important. I think John Walker and the Life Network, frankly, are heroes. I'm just going to put that right out there because when COVID hit, St. Vincent's, which was doing food 7 days a week, went down. Why? Lack of social distancing, very older volunteer base, fear of COVID, entirely understandable. At that time, the Backdoor Mission was doing 2 days a week for food. And so John Walker stepped up and went 7 days a week, and he hasn't missed a day since. I've supported him. That doesn't matter. But the point being that without that, there'll be a lot of people in dire straits. And these aren't just drug addicts and homeless people. These are people on ODSP who's over 120% of their budget goes to rent. And you say, well, how can that be? Because they take 20% of their budget out of their food budget, and they're afflicted. So, we need this right now. And then, of course, Mission United was formed, and they go 7 days a week.
Great.
But anyway, I guess my point being is that until St. Vincent's Kitchen comes back up, this is a necessary service. There are a lot of people, and it's not going to get any better. As the COVID comes back, as the evictions started August 1st and more people are starting to get through eviction notices and be out on the streets, some of them families of 5, those people need help. So we can't stop the food service, but I firmly believe it needs to be in a better place. And if we can make that happen, I think we're going to see a large step up in improvement. So thank
Great.
you.
Thanks, Rick. Matt wanted to say something, but just before I get Matt in there, I got to smile. I'm one of the old folks at the St. Vincent's Kitchen that volunteered. So thanks for that reference. Go
A lot
ahead.
of people are older than you.
Yeah, no, I got it. Matt, go ahead.
I just want to make a comment about what you just said, Councillor, in regards to going and targeting the drug dealers and running out of town. I think that's ultimately the equation that we're trying to balance here. Because based on past experience, if we get engagement, feet on the streets in the downtown, a vibrant downtown, that riffraff will tend to dissipate. The problem that we're facing now is we don't have that activation in the downtown. So how do we grapple with that, with COVID hitting us? What we have now with what we have going in Memorial Park, I mean, and I'm not surprised. It's indicative of many downtowns what you see. I mean, our carpets now even roll up earlier. 4 o'clock in the downtown, boom, you see it. They all move in. So how do we activate the downtown? And that's what I just wanted to say to this group is let's not take our eye off the prize.
Yeah.
Is that we've still got to try and balance the scale properly, right? So let's not put all of our energy in one area. We still got to look after trying to activate and make downtown vibrant. And I don't have the answer. I'm not going to sit here in front of you and say I do, but I just want to put it out there that we've got to be attentive to the needs of our membership too, and look at how do we activate? Because I'll tell you, once we start activating and getting more feet on the street, that riffraff will get dissipated because then the complaints go. Let's face it, everything's complaint driven, right? So you say right now, okay, well let's get together and go after the drug dealers. Right now, there's no activation in downtown. There's no feet on the streets. So that's not going to happen.
I beg to differ, but but I think you hit on a point, and you're right about that. Is that it's a multivariate approach.
Absolutely.
It's not all about taking care of one thing and all the dominoes will fall. No, that's not correct. But as I think I had alluded to, a lot of those dominoes are being addressed. It's just that some of them are harder to tip over than others. So I take your point. I think you know that I've been working with Jeff Davis and Adam Kuntz on the Troubadour series, and it's a one small step for man, one giant step for mankind, right? We need more of that.
Well, don't get me wrong. Right? I'm not by any means trying to discredit.
No,
that's all very appreciative. But I just wanted to put it out there to us and the group that we've also got to keep an eye on another focus as well. Right?
It's a great point because it's a balancing act. You started with it's a balancing act, and I think you're both are absolutely right in terms of A, it's a big issue for our members. B, it's tied to the fact that that you said, Matt, when there's a lot of activity, we tend to find that these other groups do not like the attention and the activity of other people, so they would tend to be either diluted or moved away. But I think you raise a valid point. But at a time where retail is not open or suffering, we're going into COVID wave 2. I mean, that's the balancing act. It's a chicken and egg issue for sure. What comes first, right?
Plus, having the downtown look the way it is with the sidewalk widening project one, it looks like a war zone. I get that. It's not an enticing place to go, but that's supposed to be wrapping up this month. And then all those little orange and black pylons will be out of there. And that's a start. We also have the Biltmore Theater that's going to open up probably now November, December. But again, when you start opening that, you start having live streaming concerts and people coming into town for the VIP sort of socially distanced audiences, and there's more people coming back. When the big opens up, the Mansfield's Cabaret, and we're able to do that. All of these things on the horizon are positive. It's just that with the COVID thing, it's certainly complicated. But we have some issues downtown, and we'll talk about them later. Go Metrolinx now saying they want more parking spots removed on Bond Street and Williams so they can do the buses and federal funding coming in. DRT now wants to go ahead with their rapid bus system, and that's going to wipe out parking on King Street on the south side. And I'm sitting there going, come on. So I'm trying to add more parking on street downtown with the Athol Street flip over on the line, so we can put a minimum of 9. I think there could be more spots in addition to what's there. But, you know, if they keep yanking street parking away, and then we just got the parking study that said,
Yeah, you're
I'm
cheating.
jumping
Yeah,
ahead, I
you're
know.
cheating ahead on the
I
agenda,
know.
so we're gonna get that update. So
don't get me
thanks,
started. You
thanks.
got me started.
That's okay. That's good. It's my fault. I got you started. Thanks, Rick. Thanks for
You
the update.
generically, not you as the chair.
Very good. Okay, any other comments on open administrative issues?
Just maybe if I add one point to that conversation, which is to Matt's point.
Go ahead, Mike.
Kind of too bad we can't get that Winter Festival of Lights through this year, because again, that would have lit up Memorial Park and also drawn people downtown together with all the other events. It would have been, I think, really helpful as part of that balancing of activating the downtown core and you know, directly addressing the Memorial Park issue. But yeah, that's just my 2 cents in there as well.
Well, thank you, Michael. Okay, committee reports, economic and beautification. Jeanette. Oh, sorry. Do we need a motion?
We can just do the motion for all of the reports.
Okay, sorry. Oh, sorry. Yes, go ahead.
Your issue on Memorial Park is only one piece of the puzzle. First of all, I don't believe that social services is the BIA's mandate. I agree that you must advocate for the help from the city and the region. However, if you shut down the food programs at Memorial Park, all you're going to do is disperse the crowd into the rest of our downtown. Spending upwards of 20 hours a week on the streets in downtown with Troubadour Series, I can tell you that that's already happening because of what you're doing. CDN Protection took down a person of interest last weekend that chased all of the patrons away from one of the patios at a Troubadour Series because of the way that they did it.
Thanks, John.
And that is having a detrimental effect as well. But you can't just chase them out of Memorial Park. You're just going to spread them through the city and make it even more difficult for things like the Troubadour Series.
Yeah, fair enough. Thanks, John. Do I get a motion for all the updates, 6, 7, and 8? Matt? Seconder, Isaac? All in favor? Thank you. Michael?
Yes.
Jeanette?
Yes.
Sue, you're not voting, so thank you. Carried. Committee reports. Jeanette, do you want to do economic and beautification, please?
Yes. So I was not unfortunately present at the last economic and beautification meeting, but based on the minutes that I received, we are rethinking some of the programs and projects that we have based on the budget that we have right now. So Discover the Space, we don't know if that's going to proceed. We just received the revised proposed budget last night, so we'll have to go through all the projects that we have listed for this year and next year based on the revised budget that we received. And so we have some of the projects like Discover Space, the holiday lighting. We don't know if we're going to get winter greeneries or be able to hang our wreaths this year, but we're going to work on that and kind of like move the budget around depending on what we have on hand, see what we can do. Basically, that's all I can say right now. We were working on a different budget when this meeting happened, and last night we had a revised budget, so we'll have to rethink our priorities in terms of the physical improvements and the economic development projects that we've had listed before. But yeah.
Great. Thanks for that update. Any questions? Hearing none. Michael, do you want to do governance, please?
Yep, we'll keep it quick. So just continuing to work on different policies and reviewing stuff that the capstone students have prepared for us. So working hard with that. Confidentiality policy for volunteers on committees and different committee members is coming into place as well. And then lastly, we just talk about the survey from last week for board members. Same timing complaints, but not too bad. And people are also mentioning that the board package could be received a little bit earlier. I think this time that probably took care of that. It was received quite early, I think. But we'll hear from the next survey and report back again. Other than that, everyone's happy.
Great. Any questions for Michael? Angela, Michael, I'm just going to ask Angela to talk a little bit about the FOI requests that we had. We're still in the process of fulfilling that.
Okay.
Well, yeah, so we had one of 3 FOI requests. This one was, I submitted back in July. So the city asked us to do some more work on it just because when I saved the emails, none of the attachments went through. So I had to go through 141 pages to figure out which ones needed to be this time forwarded. I didn't save them as PDFs. I just forwarded so that everything would be forwarded through to them. And then there was a couple, and I'm not sure why, but there was a couple of emails where they were cut off when they were saved as PDFs. So when I noticed them, I resent them. So I did get that finished yesterday.
So we're compliant?
We're compliant, yeah. They
Great.
gave us an extension until October the 1st, but I wanted to get it out of the way because we've got the AGM stuff going and wouldn't be able to get to it, I don't think, until
Great.
the deadline. So
Thank you for that. Any questions? Hearing none. Isaac, do you want to do marketing and comms?
Yeah, I'll keep my update brief as well. The marketing committee has done the best that they can with the limited budget that we have at the moment. You know, one thing I can say, we got a bit of an injection of new energy with 2 new committee members in this past month. So we're proud to accept on Melissa Smith and Keelan Dover, who are both employees of Durham College. So, you know, one of our stakeholders, it's good to have them on. And then also to have one of our committee members back from maternity leave. So that's good news for the marketing committee. A lot of our efforts were spent on advocacy and communications, whether it be, you know, again, some of the letters that we've helped prepare for lobbying some of the provincial and federal politicians, or just preparing simply for the AGM. So great work, Taylor and Ivano, for putting together a lot of the materials for the upcoming AGM. Aside from that, I know that we've been working hard on getting a lot of the blog work done. I know we've been working directly with Welcoming Streets to try to get an article produced that we can put on our website as well. And that's essentially it.
I'd like to add one thing.
Sure.
Of the 2 new committee members, one actually is a resident of downtown and has not only been a long-time resident, she also has worked downtown. She provides a unique experience for that committee.
Great. Thank you.
Thanks, Angela.
Any questions for Isaac? Great. Hearing none. Thank you very much. Cindy, do you want to do community development?
Yeah, we also got to welcome a new member to our committee, which, as Isaac says, it's always good to have fresh ideas at the table and to banter around and debate new perspectives. So that was a welcome addition to the committee. We missed out, I think, on a full Welcoming Streets update. Hopefully they'll be there at the next meeting to connect. But again, we just want to lean on Welcoming Streets to perhaps provide answers or statistics as to more of the business perspective and how they're facilitating businesses downtown. We know they're doing a lot of great things for the unsheltered population, but again, just asking for some accountability around services they're providing for the businesses. Also being kind of the voice of the businesses, we recognize communication is huge. So we did hold our first town hall on the unsheltered population. and I would say it was quite successful. I think we had almost 30 people attend. It was a Zoom town hall. A lot of great questions about the impact of the unsheltered population on businesses, and our panel was able to field those questions. So the video feed is going to be live, I think, today or tomorrow. If anybody wants to review the whole session. There's also a typed summary of the session that'll be posted as well, so people can reference the questions rather quickly, because they were really good questions. I'm sure a lot of our business members have as well. And that dovetails into a meeting we had with Durham Region Police. Our next town hall is going to be focused on safety and security, as that was identified as the membership's #1 issue. So Ivano and Angela and I met with DRPS. They were really great. Again, I think communication is key. There's a lot of things that had been going on in the past that we weren't privy to, or somehow there was a knowledge exchange piece that got dropped there. So apparently DRPS used to host meetings with the BIA monthly or bi-monthly, back I think when Garth was here. And that kind of went by the wayside. So both sides, the BIA and DRPS, are very excited to renew that. So we're going to be meeting with them more regularly. They do keep statistics specifically for the BIA catchment area and downtown. So they're looking at ways as to how they can share that information with us in the best way, so there's no confusion with our members. And we give them feedback as to what areas seem to be hotspots or what areas our business members have concerns with, and they're able to kind of tailor services to meet that. So I think that'll be a really great improvement for us downtown. The one thing they noted, there's a difference between crime statistics and disorder-related calls. So as we move forward with the town halls and whatnot, there's going to be a huge education piece for our members. So the town hall is going to kick off that whole kind of unrolling of our better, improved, enhanced relationship with DRPS and how we can work together collaboratively better than we have in the past. So that was really exciting. Seems like a great partnership. One of the things that was uncovered in that meeting that I think, again, it's not the BAA's role to get involved in social services per se, but it is our role to advocate on behalf of our members and make sure that our voice is heard. Similar to the food survey, it's not that we're going to use our budget money towards it, but when we sit at a table and people say, well, how do the businesses feel about food? It's not good for me to voice my own opinion because I haven't spoken to anybody or we don't have polls. So there probably will be more polls going out to the members. So when we sit at these tables, we can say, our membership feels this way. It gives us more credibility. It gives strength to our voice. It's just good practices for the BIA. So in regards to that, DRPS let us know that there was the Durham? There was a Durham table.
Durham Connect.
Yes, so Durham Connect was a regional table where they identified high needs populations, and there were various social services around the table. So individuals would stream through and get hooked up with social services. So instead of keeping people circulating in the downtown core, they were actually connected to services and handheld through those services so that they could get off the streets. So we thought that was a brilliant idea. Apparently Oshawa started their own in-house mini situation room.
Table. Yeah.
So I believe WSI and some of the other service providers were at that table. They had one meeting and then COVID hit. So they've temporarily disbanded, but as the BIA, we would really like to advocate and push that group of people come together again. We see that as a strong solution in addition to some of the other interventions that are being made. That's key because we don't want to just keep people comfortable, keeping them fed and providing them with shelter during the day. We want to see people connected to rehab, to mental health supports, to social work, and getting, jobs, connecting with family, getting off the streets. So the BIA will, definitely kind of keep tapping people's shoulders and making sure that those things are coming to fruition. The GAP committee is another committee also ramping up again, I believe. Rick and another committee member sit on that committee. So that's another important piece so that the BIA is aware of what's happening with the unsheltered community and the efforts that are being coordinated so we can convey that to our members. Because there are a lot of different pieces that are working on this. And again, it's a communication piece that our members might not be aware of. So as a conduit, to feed that information forward so that everybody knows what's going on, we can work together and better inform the process. And I'll turn it to Angela to just comment on the RAD project. That's the Ramp Accessible Downtown.
Okay, so we have in our office a ramp that we ordered online. We have tested it with a stroller. We, next Monday, are going to be testing it with a wheelchair because we want to make sure that it's sturdy enough before we actually decide to order more for some of the businesses. This ramp is portable. It's aluminum, so it's lightweight, even though it's still quite heavy, but it's fairly lightweight versus a wooden one. And I believe it was good for up to an incline of 4 inches. So if your step is 4 inches, although we tested it at Matilda's, which is slightly higher than 4 inches, and it worked for there. And that's where we'll test the wheelchair as well. I believe there are 10 businesses that would qualify for this ramp right away. And just to remind everyone, we did between the partnership grant, or between the partnership with Central Counties and the other grant, we received over $1,500 towards this. So we are looking at getting these, at least for the lower inclines that we can do. And we need to follow through with some of the other companies that have ramps, because we did send them the information on some of the steeper inclines, like 6 inches and I think up to 10, just so that we can get information and possibly get some of those custom made. Each of these will have, we have to put the decal for the Tweed grant, because that's what the grant was, as well as Central Counties. We'll also have a decal made for the window of the business, so they can put that in the window, and as people are going by, they can see that they're a business that has one of those ramps. And I was talking, well, with Sue yesterday, and we were talking with Isabella's, and she identified that she has a number of people that would love to get in, and this would help their business. So, and that's the whole purpose of this, is to try to make it more accessible for everyone. And just to, so everyone is aware, these are just temporary. So the idea is they put them out when someone needs them, they bring it back in, put it back out when the people need to leave. There is an MOU process that we do with the businesses as well, so that they know what their responsibilities are and what our responsibilities, because they will have to provide a certificate of insurance for the city as well.
So I have 2 questions.
Yes.
Sure. Are you done, Angela?
Yep.
All right, Cindy, are you done with the update?
Yeah, that's
Okay. Any questions, Rick?
One for each. With respect to the ramps, the issue in certain parts of the downtown is the depth between the front of the building and the curb. Because, so I understand that with now that we've widened the sidewalk, that won't be an issue in those areas, but for something like Cork and Bean, for instance.
They actually already have their own ramp.
Yeah.
Right, so that's why we went out and took rough measurements, so that when we asked the companies to be able to build custom ramps, they could tell us right away, well, in this location, it's not going to work. So if you take Oshawa Coffee House, if you look on the King Street, there is no way they'd be able to have a ramp. The ramp would have to be out past the parking space in front of their place. However, if you go on Center, that's only, I think, about a 15 inch, but the sidewalk is much wider, so they could actually have a portable ramp that they set out and bring back in.
And they can also run it parallel to the building too. You don't have to go up towards the curb. So if you have the building width, you can come up from the side and turn and go in.
Yeah, you don't have that. For that landing there, it wouldn't work.
That would be more of a permanent.
Yeah, that would be a permanent solution. We're just looking at temporary solutions that help the members, right?
Okay.
Second
So
question.
the second question is, I'd just like to ask Cindy if you would clarify, please, the situation with Welcoming Streets Initiative. Whether or not, because this is webcast, there seems to be a misunderstanding that somehow the BIA is funding this. So would you guys kind of clarify what's the BIA's role in the Walking Streets initiative? Is it a funding situation? Is it a participation in the meetings to provide communication? Would you just clarify that?
From my understanding, Welcoming Streets is a joint initiative between CARIA, the City of Oshawa, and the BIA. So the BIA does not provide funding. The BIA is in partnership in that, again, we represent the voice of the businesses. The businesses are a key component of the downtown core. Ideally, we sit at the table to exchange information and provide feedback according to how WSI services are helping the businesses provide CARIA with information of what the businesses need from WSI. So I know they've done naloxone training, some mental health training supported through the BIA. So we'll do things like set up events, right, or provide spaces to host that. Businesses are provided with WSI's contact information. So if there are people who are loitering or in distress, they can contact WSI directly. So WSI is establishing a relationship with the businesses to make that more of a smoother relationship, so businesses feel comfortable in contacting WSI and there's a clear understanding of their role and when to contact WSI versus emergency services. So I think that's a high level. I don't know, so I can ask Sue if I've missed anything as far as the relationship between WSI and the BIA.
I was just actually trying to pull out the MOU that was signed for the extension. So Councillor Kerr, I can provide more and forward the MOU. Actually, it's been sent to the board and to obviously all the councillors, but I'd be more than happy to resend that to you.
The council, I just was addressing some uncertainty within the downtown community about what the BIA's role was. So I just wanted to clarify that. And I think Cindy's done that. So in summary, there's no financial involvement, but in the sense of the comments about the BIA getting involved in social services, we're not. We're just providing access for businesses so that they can have this service augment or give them additional service to operate their business.
That's correct.
And I think when I was referencing the information that would be valuable for businesses, I know CARIA and WSI, they're doing a fantastic job supporting the unsheltered population, which is their primary mandate, and we're very supportive of that. But just also to kind of keep advocating for the BIA and the businesses, we kind of keep putting in the forefront matters that are important to the businesses from a business perspective. So, you know, the connection to services. WSI also takes people to the Backdoor Mission, and they have a hub there where they can get connected to services. So more meaningful data for us would be how many people are being connected to those services, how many people are being entered into or moved through the system. Yeah. So we're just kind of pressing a little bit more for that data in addition to the good work they're already doing, because we feel that that's important for our members to know the flow through of.
So if I can just add to that, and unfortunately it had to curtail September 14th, but over the summer we had that Camp Samac program. And what it enabled WSI and the city and various organizations like Mission United to do was to identify individuals who wanted to make that transition step. And they could take them out of the element that they're in here, put them into a secure situation, Camp Samac, feeding, addiction counseling, mental health counseling, and so forth. And a great number, I don't have the numbers at my fingertips, but a fairly significant number of people have transitioned out into a safe accommodation that they didn't have before. So that's another aspect that WSI has had an impact on.
Thank you, Rick. Sue, you had your hand up. You wanted to ask a question?
Yes, just thank you. Just a question for Cindy. Cindy, the WSI, so CARIA is sending out summary results monthly for the WSI steering committee. Are you receiving those, or is the board? I think they are sent. I know Yvonne, I think you're on. Are you all receiving those? The ones that sends out the number, like for example, the latest that just came out was from June 1 to September 11, which shows the client interactions, the number of calls for support, the participation, which is all their training, and then of course number of business visits. Are you receiving those?
I think our challenge right now is in transition. I know Haley is our BIA rep. I think she's been on holidays quite a bit, and there's some ambiguity around some member participation on the BIA board. We don't have an ED. We're short-staffed. We're tight on everything. I know a few board members are going above and beyond participating. I think it's a resource issue for us to, you know, I personally am not receiving the WSI summaries. I think there's work to do there that we can make that smoother. I'm not sure who or how to get the summaries to, because everybody's tapped out, I think, on the board as volunteers. So something we can talk about and perhaps find a solution for.
So
we're not receiving regular updates.
You're right, Sue. I'm getting them because I think I'm on the Mayor's Economic Recovery Task Force and a bunch of emails that they just send me stuff. And it's I think we've seen it. We helped drafted the criteria of the categories of what they're measuring. And it's certainly a large volume of activity. So I get them, but I'm not sure what to do with them, to be honest with you. We're trying to develop a WSI communication where some of this, Haley's kind of synthesizing that in that report that we're trying to put out to members. So somehow I think it's going to make its way into a more meaningful communication piece, but not that particular peg count that she provides us will go out like that.
So what we were talking about yesterday, it's timely that we had our meeting yesterday afternoon just before the board meeting, but what we were talking about, and I can have a sidebar with Angela after the board meeting, is that if that could get posted on the BIA website, because I think it's really useful for the BIA members to see what's happening, because there is not always clarity about what the roles of WSI are, the outreach workers, and also, you know, what we have to look at what the quantitative is as well as the qualitative. So there's some really good quantitative in this that are constantly updated. This one is from June to September 11th. So if we can get that posted up on the website, I think it'll be useful. And just to maybe continue on that line is that, and yeah, Haley is representing the BIA really well on this. The program ends, we had an extension for 6 months. It ends December 31st. So we will soon be preparing a report to go back to council to seek approval for 2021. For, as we know, this is a very necessary, important project in the downtown. On that note, we know that there's still, and Cindy, I think you alluded to it, there seems to be still a little bit of not a lot of clarity around what is the support for businesses, how are they communicating to businesses. So I've done some walks with the outreach workers, and after our meeting yesterday I offered that I'm going to do it again, because it works really well when they're doing the health side and I'm talking to the businesses, and we work well in tandem doing that. So we're going to do that again to get some more testimonials and to find out what's working, what's not working with the businesses. Okay.
Thanks, Sue.
You're welcome.
So on that, I mean, I'll throw in my hat in the ring a little bit. We've been feeding back to Kim, like we started the peg count, Sue, when we had Welcoming Streets going back in terms of we should put some measurables. I'm the data guy, right? I'm the quant guy. I'm the science guy. I got to look at numbers and facts to go, how big is this? Bigger than a bread box, smaller than a Ferrari? That's what I'm trying to sort out. And that peg count certainly gave us the frequency activities. So it gave me a sense for motion, not results. So Haley's been coming to the table. I've been asking her, and Kim, I think Cindy has been part of the conversation every once in a while on, okay, I got a good handle on activity and motion. I don't have a good handle on results because I can't figure out whether this is a growing problem, a stabilizing problem, or a shrinking problem. So to your point around communicating to members, our members, I think, are feeding back to us that it's an untenable growing problem. And we're trying to get a handle on the people who are out on the streets, what are they seeing? And where are the bottlenecks in terms of, people coming in and cases going out? Rick reported out Camp Samac is kind of this transition point. There was about 30, 40 people through that program, but it's certainly going to be a growing problem if you got 30 coming out the other end and 200 coming in the front end. And that would be what our members feel out there from the survey. So I like the sort of partnerships we have here. You know, I'm looking at the data side to go, does the data validate the feelings? Because the feelings are very clear. So Cindy does the feeling side, I do the data side. So, you know, from that perspective, we're missing the quality part of that initiative. We certainly have the peg count number.
Yeah, and I think for me, if we're posting things to our members, it has to be meaningful to them. So I know, for example, supplies, they gave out 5,700 supplies, or I forget what it's categorized under. Well, we know the next month that number is going to jump by a few hundred, but what does that translate to for us? What does that mean? So we know they're doing a great job of providing supplies and that number goes up every month, but how is that meaningful for us? So we don't want to just post stuff for the sake of posting stuff. We want it to be really meaningful for the businesses. So to really hone in and work with WSI on that.
And we fed back to Kim about that. That was something very early in the program. And I think, you know, to her credit or to her defense, I think she said we've got to have some time to collect and synthesize that data. And I think that's what Haley's trying to do. And I think, Sue, what you're seeing there, we got a good handle on volume. We don't have a great handle on quality or outcomes. To Cindy's point, our businesses, I think, would be proud of the fact that we are looking after humanity in a respectful way, but they're also trying to see that this problem is shrinking and that we're seeing good outcomes. And I don't think we've seen that. I don't think I hang that on WSI. It's a complex problem. You know, I think they're reporting they're having a bottleneck on people signing up for programs. Having said that, Camp Samac can handle 50. There's about 30 in there. 24.
At a time, but
Right.
then as some go out more.
Right. So it's this element of where is it stuck as people try to get through this thing, or are they just cycling through in terms of?
We're trying to open up the Beaverton project,
Right.
which would be 50 units modular with a social services hub. So that would be.
Yeah. So the disconnect I have is the mayor says anybody who wants help can get help. There's enough beds. There's enough shelters. There's enough all of that. So that's one data point. We're seeing volumes of activity out on the street from WSI, handing out 5,000 things, talking to hundreds and hundreds of people, you know, cleaning up thousands and thousands of syringes. We're hearing that we're an intake from Hamilton to Peterborough. So there's all these disparate data points that don't necessarily connect well. And that's where I'm asking the WSI to give us a quality aspect of that. Some of the initial conversations have been leaning towards there's an 8-month program waiting list if you want to get to recovery. I don't know. I'm just repeating what someone who was on WSI told me from the front line.
There's also no treatment beds.
Right. So
which is a huge gap.
So our, you know, not that we're going to solve that problem, but I think our strategy is to kind of highlight where these things are in a coordinated way on behalf of our members. And to your point, Rick, and Cindy's point, this is all volunteer. This is my time, Cindy's time, Isaac's time, Matt's time, and Angela's time, everybody's time in on this, because we're not seeing the coordinated piece come fully together. There's our disparate pieces out there. You talked about the food
Let me ask you this
distribution.
question, though. What would that look like?
I don't know.
What do people
Well,
expect?
and I think it's not our job to solve it. It's our job to represent the voice of the
No, I'm
business
not saying it's our
community.
job, but I'm talking about the general perception, the city's involvement, the region's involvement, BIA's involvement to a certain extent, that service groups and organizations, and people keep saying they want this to happen. But what do you think the actual end game looks like? Because there's more people coming out of the woodwork all the time. That you know, evictions happen. People, Greyhound clients getting sent here from Toronto. Neighboring municipalities that don't have soup kitchens or shelters. So guess what? Their residents are coming here. You know, and it's not just Peterborough and Hamilton, it's Whitby and Clarington.
So I like the question, because I think it is, what it highlights to me is we need to highlight where it's not working. And I think one of the bottlenecks right now is getting that treatment that you described. You've now put another data point saying there's not enough treatment beds, which validates what the workers are telling us, which is people who want to go through the recovery can't find a place. So then they're here and they're just cycling through, right?
Yeah.
And what's what our members are seeing.
So there's a
right?
great expression Daniel Cullen has, and I always quote this: without hope, there's no motivation. So Johnny Walker is a 17-year-old guy who's an addict down the park. He desperately wants to get off the stuff, but there's no treatment bed. There's no place for him to go. So he's just stuck. And it's
Right.
it's suicidal for a kid.
Well,
like
so,
that.
so to Cindy's point, I'm not looking to solve it. I'm just looking to point our resource people, government, region,
Yeah.
whoever, that, hey, this is a problem and we're telling you from the business side, it needs to be fixed.
So I can tell you that the mayor, based on that discussion, has organized a meeting with Lakeridge Health, because if they are getting funding for certain initiatives, one of those initiatives, in my view, must be treatment beds.
Yeah.
Even if they had 10, and they can cycle people through, because then people would see, like, all of a sudden, the ceiling has been lifted and they can see a way up and through. And that's what's uplifting for people. Right now, that isn't there. And that's extremely difficult for outreach workers to deal with, because they know these people aren't going to go anywhere.
Great, thanks, Frank. Anything else on community
Very
development?
robust and fulsome conversations.
Thanks, Cindy. Thanks, Sarah. Thanks, Sue. Michael or Jeanette, any questions for Sue or for Cindy?
I think,
No, we're good.
I think we've had enough for today on that. Those topics.
Very good. Thanks, guys. Events. Is Andrea on the line?
No, she's not.
Do you want to give a quick update, Angela?
There's really no update. We're just waiting for the budget to pass, other than, you know, that I guess would be the same as from the earlier, just that we've got the students working on, you know, budgets for
Great.
whenever we do have the budget to do events and are allowed to do events, so that we have something to start on, and
Well,
and
on
the plans.
contrary, there's a very big report that can be made. And that is that the BIA is a half sponsor with BIG of something called the Troubadour Series.
Right.
It's been going on since the tail end of August. Last weekend was chilly. It was a bit tough. This weekend, both days are 25 or 6. It's ideal. It's going to be unseasonably warm through the month of October is what the projection is. And the people have been working hard to get the musicians lined up, the venues lined up. There's a lot of acceptance from all 5 venues about the impact it's had. Has it been massive in terms of packing the patios? No, because the word needs to get out better. But the fact is the last warm Saturday, a week ago Saturday I was out, it was 20 degrees. There was an average of 13 people on all 5 patios at the same time. And when we started, there might have been 4 here and 3 there. So this is representing a very large increase. And one of the venues, the first night, their beer sales doubled. And they're looking every time Jeff and I walk in there and Adam walk in there, looking at us like they're extremely happy with this. So, and the fact that the BIA has its name up there and has chipped in on the sponsorship piece with BIG, a private company, that's not lost on people. I mean, that people are seeing this as a very positive thing that the BIA has been involved with and is supporting. And that needs to keep going and needs to be maximized, because the perception out there is extremely positive.
Great. Thanks for that update. Any questions for events? Okay. Finance and audit. I guess this is mine. There's a couple items here. First, the 2019 audit. I had an encouraging conversation with the City Commissioner of Finance, which tells me that we're nearing the end of that, of both the audit and the external audit to clear our books, and the I guess the internal audit that the city's conducting. They're probably going to dovetail together and be released shortly. There is no other follow-up for us to do, so I'm encouraged by the fact that we will likely clear audit, but there's no other information they need, and they haven't asked any other questions. However, we still have not received the final audit for sign-off, so which puts us in a different predicament. We would like to pass the 2019 audit and release the results at the AGM. We may have to, if we get it sometime between this meeting and the next meeting, do a special board meeting to approve the audited financial statements and then get them to the AGM, or we'll have to carry it over and not have an approval. But it's on the agenda. I'm encouraged that we still got a week. So I'm asking the patience of the board that if we have to call a real quick special meeting to get it through, that you be available. I promise it won't be a long meeting. So that's the status update on 2019. The August financials are included in your package. They pass through audit. They are in front of you. There's nothing extraordinary from what we saw at the audit committee in terms of the results. Everything seems to be tracking on expectation. We talked about a couple of little unexpected costs that came up in terms of clearing the igloos and some of the other equipment that was delivered through customs and a delivery charge. Nothing huge to upset the budget, but just unexpected costs that came in for the month. We did get some nice surprises as well in terms of rebates and refunds that are showing in the revenue line. So all in all, we're still tracking in total where we want to be, but we've got some moving parts in between all that, but nothing stands out of any consequence. Do I want to do these separately, Angela, in terms of the approval, or get an approval for the August financials?
If we're talking about the budget and going to be approving that, I would get
Separate?
Yeah, I would get separate
Okay.
ones. Yeah.
Unless unless there are any questions with the August financials, I would like to move them, but is there any questions on the August financials from anyone? I'll make the motion to move the August financials. Do I get a seconder? Matt? All in favor? Michael?
Yes.
Jeanette?
Yes.
That's it. Right?
Yeah.
Okay, pass. Thank you. So we can post those, right?
Yeah, we can post this.
Great. Member feedback on draft budget. I think as late as last night, we received the last update on all the items. Maybe I've gone through all the feedback, and I'm encouraged and I'm thankful that everyone's fed back. We've seen the feedback range in the entire range from, full steam ahead to, are you guys crazy disbanding the whole PIA? Well, I don't think say crazy, but certainly we had some challenges as to what we were trying to do with our budget, and not in favor of that, which we expected. I don't think we're getting overwhelming push one way or the other. So it's sitting out there. You've seen the feedback. So from that perspective, I know it's been a short window, but essentially we've got our marching orders from our membership in terms of what looks like the feedback is telling us. And with that in mind, does anyone have any questions on the feedback itself that they've gone through? I know not everyone's had a chance to go through it fully, but.
No questions, but I would like to turn to some here that are here today that have made feedback, and just thank you for taking the time to submit your thoughts and what you think about the budget, because I know that the entire board, it means something to hear from everyone. So thank you for taking that time.
Any other comments?
Just some questions, but I don't know whether this is the time to go drill into the weeds on what we have sitting in front of us.
Yeah, so we put the draft budget out there. We've got the feedback. Do you have any questions on those two components in terms of the feedback or the draft budget?
Yeah, I just a couple of items.
Oh, you're going to the.
You're going to the next section.
Yeah, which is the 2021 budget. Okay.
Yeah, but we're still on the feedback.
All right, so
yeah.
I think there's some very valid member feedback out there.
Yeah.
And I don't know, where do we go with this one? I think until you walk a mile in somebody's shoes, as a various business owners who have had to struggle through COVID and still are, I don't think we can know 100% what the impact is and what they're thinking. And I think from their perspective, any added costs at this point are pretty much untenable. So I think we need to be really mindful of what, if any, increases we have and where we can, in fact, excise from the draft budget what we may have proposed. So I really think we need to be mindful of sharpening the pencil and taking another look at it. Because every line item that we can either hold the line on or reduce or even eliminate, And everyone that where there is deemed to be an positive economic impact of if increasing that line item, I think that needs to be fully explained in every single case. Because we owe it to BIA members to give them a budget that is absolutely bare bones where it can be. Absolutely. And the feeling on council right now is there's not going to be an awful lot of support for a budget that has more than a minimal increase, if at all.
Okay.
So I just want to put that out there right now. I mean, there's still a large segment of the council that, yes, they clawed back the previous year's budget. And yes, there was a feeling that why can't we do this over a 3-year period or a 2-year period than what we tried to do last year, which I understand all the rationale as to why we wanted the big snowball at the start of and then COVID hit. And so we're still in COVID and we're going to be in there for a while. So I just really caution as to whether we have any increase at all, unless it can be absolutely seen that it has an economic comeback for our members. So I just have to say that at this point.
Okay. Anything else? Michael, anything to add?
Oh, I've always got a few things to add on this. Yeah, I thought the comments were definitely very thoughtful. I thought one thing when I was reading through some of the feedback was it was a lot of fear-based discussion, and I share in that fear because it's very uncertain as to what's going to happen. If we go into lockdown again and my numbers take the plunge that they did in the middle of the throes of the lockdown, then yeah, I'm not looking to pay anything extra that I don't have to pay. You got to go really tight in your budgeting. I noticed a lot of the comments were talking about other businesses and not necessarily the businesses that were commenting, saying, you know, I really took a really hard hit. I don't have the money myself to do that, but that's neither here nor there. In talking with a lot of the business owners and things downtown, it's really difficult because people do want feet in the streets. A lot of businesses do, not everyone, through events, but at the same time, don't want to spend any money to get that done, and I get that. So I wish there was a little bit more flexibility in our budgeting process with the city. The reality is we can't really submit, I don't think, 2 budget lines to say, if this happens, then this, and if this happens, then this. Well, we can, but it has to be done by a certain date, submitted to the city. And I don't think that date is going to be early enough to know whether we're going to run. So things like Cars on King, it's going to be really depressing or upsetting, I think, to a lot of business owners if we're in a place with COVID that event could happen, and we don't have the budget from the city to do it. So we just have to continue to scrap it in that year. And I think there's a lot of potential for missed opportunities in summer 2021 if we don't have some flexibility or wiggle room to pivot based on what's happening with the current situation that's evolving and that nobody really knows the answers to. I think Cars on King's a big one. I never hear a bad word on that event, but it costs a lot of money for the BIA to run that. So if we don't have the budget to do it, we just won't be able to do it. So that's really something that I've been struggling with, and that's really difficult. I think we can err on the side of caution, but the messaging to the membership is we won't be able to come back and do it if all of a sudden, you know, the COVID environment is that we can run it. And same with all of the other events that bring people in and that we've been getting such positive feedback on from our members. And that might just be a reality of the times. But I hate missing out on good opportunities. And I don't know if that adds anything to the pivot budget where, you know, COVID's still in full swing. We're going to have to just shut her down and run like we ran this year. But if COVID's loosening up and we can start to see some economic rebound and we want to really accelerate that and help bring people back downtown with events, I would really like to be able to be in a place to do that for our members. So I don't know if that makes any sense or that's just some rambling concerns from me. That's my 2 cents.
Thank you for that feedback, Michael. Yeah, I think I share some of the same sentiments as you. We're trying to do the best thing for our members. and trying to project out what 8 months from now or 6 months from now, what it's going to look like, and not have to be shoehorned into one way or the other, the wrong way. So to your point, yeah, it's a struggle. I don't think anyone here is having an easy time with that for sure. Jeanette, anything to add?
No, not really. I do agree with what Michael has said. It's tough because we want to do a lot of things to help improve our downtown area, help our businesses, and you know, it's crucial to. I think that from like, for example, from our committee's perspective, we're trying to do the best we can to help our businesses bounce back from this setback, from the COVID-19 setback. But now it's like a two-edged sword. You can't do anything, so it's disappointing. But I think we have to listen to what our memberships are saying. My fear is that this is going to set us back, and then once the COVID-19 disappears, it's what are the members going to say, right? They're going to say, you know, we're not in a position to do anything again. So that's going to set us back, not just this year and next year. It's going to be probably a year or so again. So I don't know. We work with the budget that we have, I guess.
And I echo your concerns, Jeanette. I think I do not like paying more money for anything. And as one of the 21s that was hit extra hard with this taxing, I hope my voice does carry some weight as well. I don't necessarily want to see a large increase with COVID because I'm struggling just the same as everybody else. But I do recognize that we as the downtown core are so far behind our levies. Our levies are low, ridiculously low compared to other jurisdictions with the same urban center and population. So perhaps we would be positioned very differently had we kept up with the times back in 2016, back in 2014. If we kept up with the basic rate of inflation, we wouldn't be in this position where we have to have a massive increase to bring us up to par with everybody else. Maybe the downtown wouldn't be in the state it was in right now had we kept up with the times back in the day. So it's a catch-up game, and I understand it hurts everybody. I don't know if COVID's the best time to do a massive increase, but I think everybody has to recognize we have to up our game and get on par with basic Ontario BI standards. So perhaps that means a slower increase over the times, but I think advocating for zero increase or a decrease is going to set us even farther behind the 8 ball. So no, I'm not a huge proponent of dishing out more money, especially right now, but I am a proponent for advocating for downtown Oshawa and bring ourselves up to par to other jurisdictions in Ontario so that at least we can play the same game as everybody else, and help contribute to, you know, making downtown Oshawa a place where people want to be again. I don't like our reputation. I'm not proud of our reputation right now, and it's going to take effort on all of our parts to change that. So it's my 2 cents worth.
Thanks, Cindy. Rick?
So I think that begs the question, where are we behind? I mean, I heard this argument last year with the previous executive director about how we need to have a budget this much because Guelph is this much. But what exactly does Guelph do that we don't, that puts us behind?
I think other cities have tree lights. They have beautiful, welcoming events. Their streets are clean. They support businesses. It's a sense of community where businesses look out for each other. They mentor each other. They have street festivals in the evenings where businesses stay open later. I was in Aurelia a few weeks ago and my mind was blown from 4 to 10 p.m. This is tiny Aurelia, which I didn't really think much of Aurelia until I was there, and now I love it. And they shut down the streets. They had all the small lights in the trees. They had live music playing every once in a while, and they spilled their tables out onto the streets, restaurant style. And I quizzed them. I'm like, how did you do this with COVID? Did the BIA sponsor this? You know, and I asked them all sorts of things. It wasn't rocket science, but it's a sense of cohesiveness and community of people working together. So all the restaurants along the strip, you know, all were like, okay, like this is going to be a joint effort, a community effort. So as far as what we can do, we realize that communication is one of our BIA's biggest limitations. We're not communicating well. We're trying to front that off. It does take money to get these things going. And to get them up and established. We don't have, other than Cars on King, that we keep referencing as our stakehold, what other things do we have? We try here and there, it gets shot down, our budget gets cut, nobody's working together. So we need an investment of resources, and that's not just money, but it's in people's energy. So instead of being negative and buying into, I mean, I'm the first one, my schooling is in marginalized populations and advocating and supporting them. And I have people defecating and peeing on my building. I have my flowers ripped out. I'm fed up. And I'm the last person, I think. I've been supportive through the whole thing. And I've had days where I'm like, I'm quitting the BIA. I'm selling everything I have and I'm out of town because I lose hope because, you know, it does grate on you that badly. But then, you know, is that really the answer? So it takes all of our attitudes to change. It takes us accepting marginal increases in the budget and building a sense of community through communication and working together.
So I hear your point, and I think we have to look at the nature of, like Port Perry, the nature of their downtown is vastly different than here. But really, I've been there lots of times. The nature of their down is residential, over top of the stores, highly residential, way different than here. So you have to look at the breed of cat that you're talking about here.
Oh, and it's coming. I know there's a lot of residential complexes being built. We will be flooded with more residents, no doubt. I think part of the problem is we're seeing there's not, like Matt was saying, there's not a lot of people on the streets. So who's on the street? The unsheltered, and that's what we see. But then do we want to wait 5 years for when we have this influx of residents and then try to scramble to do things? I think it has to be a parallel process where we're slowly preparing and getting everything ready so that it's a transition and not a constant catch up. We have to be proactive and start somewhere to get ahead of the curve.
And I think just maybe to add to that, Rick, I mean, it's a great question. My point and why I'm here, and you guys know I'm on different boards all in Oshawa, and it's not for the love of money or anything like that. It's, I see the potential. This city has such great amenities downtown that are uncoordinated. Like there are things other cities would die for. So you talk about Port Perry and Orillia, and I'll name all the cities. London, I've lived there. I've lived in Toronto. I've lived in the Niagara region. I've seen it all, a good portion of it. This city has some of the best amenities when you talk about, you've got the military museum, you've got a golf course, you've got an airport, you've got the Tribute Center. You've got the RMG, which has a group of 7 and it's free. You've got, you've got institutions down here like the education institutions, all pretty much within a stone's throw of the downtown. You've got a GO train station coming. Cities die for 1 or 2 of those things. We got 6 or 7 of those things, and we're behind. When I say behind, it's the image we've portrayed out there because we are uncoordinated. We have the ability to coordinate this thing. So it's just, we talk about the welcoming streets and going, where are all the gaps? And we have to advocate to close those gaps. Same thing with this in terms of promoting what's possible downtown. Mm-hmm. Matt was talking about balancing acts, and he's raising the point that there is residential. You're flagging that. It wants to be that better downtown. It's got to start somewhere. And so whether it's the BIA or the city or other people, who knows? But it's all advocating on behalf of who's here already in terms of the business. And the trade-off to that is the pressures that you've raised earlier with people, affordability, and is this the right time, and the rest of that. So yeah, it's unfortunate, but it's a great conversation because there is a great possibility. Because like you said, what are we missing? You will go downtown to other places. Who has the things that we have and is in the situation we're in? A lot of them don't have it, and we'll talk about they do some better things. And Cindy's point, Cars on King's a great event. It's the only one event we shut things down, and we get 10 to 15,000 people show up. Why not have 3 or 4 of those things? But maybe not a car theme. We have 70 restaurants. We have all those other amenities. It's just not, to me, it's just not unleashing. It's not unleashed. It's not coordinated in a way that we could unleash the possibility. So that's, when you say what's missing, I think that's what's missing right now.
And if we want to bring residents downtown, we need stuff to offer them too. Otherwise, why are they going to come downtown just to get in their car and drive somewhere else for an activity, for music, for something, right? We need stuff that draws them down here and says, I want to live downtown because of this, 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 and this.
We got a junior A team that wins Memorial Cups, for crying out loud. we're in a fight with the Sioux on hosting the Memorial Cup, right? And I'm sitting there going, we should be a hands down favor to that. And we have been in the past. And I go, is there any doubt? There's a lot of doubt. Because look at some of the image we portray. Can we support something like that? Do we have the coordinated voice of all the businesses that go, this is the right thing to do? And you know what? If the businesses don't want it, that's fine. But you can't be sitting there going, I want to survive my business. I want to thrive in my business environment and not be behind some of these things and make yourself visible to people that go, this should be hands down. It's a neck and neck race with the Sioux. You talk about what do they got that we haven't got? Yeah, they got a junior A team. What else? Not to knock on the Sioux. I have friends and relatives that live up there. We should be a hands down favorite, and we're not. Louise?
I just want to provide some institutional memory here. We're not, undertaxed with regards to the BIA levy. What everyone forgets is for a long period of time, that started from really when the mall went in, we were overtaxed on commercial taxation. We were the highest in Ontario. There was 2 tax appeals to bring that back up. It's gone back up again. So you look at the overall commercial tax, and then you put on top of that the BIA levy. And that is what's got everyone freaked out. And there's not an understanding or recognition of that. The other thing is, we had the right structure going back into the 90s. 95, I think, the Downtown Action Committee was started. Downtown Action Committee was a result of downtown businesses getting so perturbed, they marched on City Hall, okay? And they set $250,000 aside and put together a committee. And frankly, that committee resembles you guys, okay? There was the BIA, the WBIA stuff, and there was this new committee, and they came up with the historical mural program, which I chaired. Eventually I was chair of DAC. I initiated Art in the Park, and that is when we took back the park. That park hadn't been used. We programmed the band show. We brought in acts that then, they ended up getting all kinds of jobs throughout the city and stuff. That group was fabulous. And then it sort of got discontinued, okay? One of the councillors who was now regional chair decided he didn't want DAC anymore, so he got council, so they cut DAC. It's time to bring DAC back, because DAC's got a wider perspective, and with the greatest respect, Cindy, your committee belongs on DAC, okay, because it had a wider perspective. We had city employees sit on that, so there wasn't mistakes being made about buying lights and buying fixtures and buying igloos and stuff that's going into a park with no electricity. On DAC, the guy from that department would have said, that's a great idea, Louise or Peter, but you can't do it because there's no power, so we've got to go through this process. So they kept us out of a lot of mistakes, and there was also 2 police officers on that committee. And we coordinated and we did a lot. So we took that $250 a year and we multiplied it because of the amount of partnerships we had. And then there was the BIA, which DAC would partner with. And the BIA started Cars on King. Daryl was chair at that time. But the BIA would partner with DAC, DAC would partner with BIA. And economic development partners, because that's when we did Vision 2000 and really had it going. And what did we lobby for? We lobbied for the Regent Theater. We lobbied for the Sports and Entertainment Complex. We lobbied for the streetscape. We lobbied, it was a fellow by the name of Bilski that ended up getting, it started with flower barrels, like whiskey barrel program that turned into floral beautification. But you need to bring DAC back. That to me is the clearest answer, is you bring DAC back. The city put $250,000 on the table to start it every year. And then you get the BIA back to what it should be doing, which is lobbying for the parking that's disappearing, because the BIA used to be on that committee at the city and at the region. And you start dealing with some of the real issues. But this is unsustainable, because we can't pay a $479,000 budget or $600,000 budget. And yeah, I'm one of the ones who sent you a letter, but honestly, I'm not going to give you my books. I'm going to tell you, I don't know what's happening in my business. I pray to God we're going to get through this. And I'm looking now at another year of this. I knew I could get to November or Christmas, But am I gonna be able to get to next November at Christmas? Because they're already talking about third quarter 2021 before we're getting back to normal and feeling we can do things again. So I think you guys gotta pull in your belt. You gotta have a bare bones budget. And frankly, I'm gonna be frank with you. If you go to council, because I can read the stars too, with a budget like you have now, you risk the whole organization. And I don't think that's wise. So I would bring yourselves back to about 250. And I'm prepared to lobby because I think we need in the city another downtown action committee. I'm gonna put one thing out because the rumor's already on the street. Please do not be supporting a safe injection site. If the safe injection site comes to this downtown, and I'm hearing it's already coming, it's gonna be back at it in October, I think. If we have a safe injection site that's in and around or adjacent to the downtown, we're finished. Because this is the problem. It isn't the folks that are using the site. Some of the users want to be adjacent to the site. And I've watched it in Toronto around the theater district. It's the first time ever I saw someone shoot up when I came out of the theater in Toronto because of that injection site. And the problem then is because the users are outside and around, the drug dealers come because it's a built-in market. And it's the same that happened with meth. It's a built-in market.
Well, I'm watching that play out at Memorial Park.
Yeah, it's a built-in market.
It's not a safe injection zone, but it still happens.
Right, right.
I give you the video
Because
evidence. I've
Welcoming
got.
Streets gives up 500,000.
Yeah.
So,
Pieces
I'm
of
just
whatever.
saying-
so it's a fair comment. Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt, but
So
it's
I
a fair
just,
comment.
like, if we have to deal with that coming back in the fall, I don't know what I'm gonna do, but I'll tear my hair out. Not that I don't care, and I hear you, I want treatment for these folks too, but it's, you know, if you say we're welcoming this, of course, the folks and the political folks and everyone else from Hamilton to Belleville are coming here because we're welcoming. It's the language out there. This stuff has to be dealt with quietly. And for the food option, and I think, you know, obviously it needs being met. Perhaps for some of these people, we could be doing meals on wheels, taking the food to them so they're not coming down. And I know the housing has been very successful, but what I'm hearing too is a lot of those folks up there at Sama are there because they're scared of the folks that are coming into town and hanging out in the park. So they're there because they fear for their lives. And this is, the community used to take care of those guys that were up there. But these guys are getting pretty rough. And now what we have is the petty criminals are deputizing those guys in the park to go around to the neighborhoods and steal. And that's starting to happen too. There's rings starting already in the downtown community. So I put that with you, but please bring that budget down.
Thanks, Louise. Any other questions? Sorry, Jeff, can you?
I really appreciated the comments that Cindy made about Aurelia and how other areas have all of these additional activities and events. What is in your budget plan that is over and above your 2019 budget plan that was $268,000? Because you're now looking at a budget of $601,000. But what's new? What's added?
Fair enough. I mean, we're kind of getting into the next phase of the conversation. I just want to make sure we get there. We can speak to some of those in a second. Any other comments on the feedback?
Yeah, I haven't heard about the reinstitution of a plan for a consumption treatment site. So that's a little concerning. And I'm certainly going to make inquiries about that.
Great.
Anyway, I'll leave it.
Thanks. Okay, so with that, with the feedback that we've had and the direction we've taken, we've pulled together a draft 2 budget, which is now sitting in front of you. The draft 2 budget, Angela, do you want to walk us through maybe the big moving parts, or do you want me to do it, or
Doesn't matter.
do you want to go through it?
We can both do it. Sure.
Okay. So I'll start with it. Angela, you can correct me or tell me when I'm wrong. If we go down the draft 2 budget, the levy let's start with the revenue line. The levy that reflects what we made the adjustments on the cost is now down to $300,000, which reflects about a 10% increase over the approved 2020 number, which was 2019's number of 269. That will fund what we'll talk about in terms of what's left after we've gone in and cut. Unfortunately, when we make cuts on the bottom end, we've cut the grants that go with that. So we've had to basically either forego a grant or reduce the amount of grant money. So when you look at the contributions of the other line items, we still have our summer subsidy program, which gets us the number of working hours to be able to provide the services. Cindy talked about resourcing is our challenge. We will need the help of some of these students that we apply for, and that grant money is still there. However, what happens there is we have to top up the remittances. So when we add some of those headcounts, are not entirely free. They come at a much reduced rate, but we still feel an impact on salaries because we have to top up some of the wage and benefit components that belong there. As we sort of trickle down, obviously, if we're not paying out to run events and paying HST, our HST rebate will be smaller. So it's reflected in smaller numbers with fewer things that we're running, which puts our total revenue number at 375, in contrast where we thought we would be at, which was higher than that to fund the activities. As we go down to the disbursement side of that, so any questions on the revenue side? That's where the number sits.
Just one.
Sure.
I'm just wondering, the summer student subsidy is 23,520 is budgeted. Is that, I just don't get this. Is that funded from the 24,000 from the sponsorship grants and?
No, so that's a direct grant. It's the Canadian Summer, well, it used to be, I think they changed the name of it, but it's the Canadian Summer Grant Program
So we're not
for
out of
students.
pocket for that, on the contrary. It's
So
funded
no,
from it.
well, that amount that's in the revenue, but it is offset. We do have an expense that goes along with that. And that shows up in the
So is that a push then?
in the salaries.
Is this in blackjack? Is that a push? You know, what the cost we have and what the grant we get that balances out?
No, because we have a top up and we have to pay the marks.
So it is two, I think he's asking two questions, and I'm not sure he knows he's asking two. So when we get a grant from the government, we have to make a contribution to top that up for all the remittances.
Okay.
And so that shows up in our salaries line. So they're not quite entirely free. Like there's a good portion of their salary is paid for, but there's a remittance component that we are obliged to do. It's part of hiring people.
So for instance, if I can jump to that, because it's based on the same question, the last year's approved budget, what we were clawed back to, if I can put it that way, is 132,000. So now there's a $25,000 basically and change increase in that. So that's where my question ultimately lands, I guess, is that's going up a chunk. So what's the reason for the?
So we'll get to it. I mean, it's what's ever left on the bottom end. So let's talk about that. What we did is cut the expense side, and we had to make some assumptions around what things could happen next year. It's not an entire. I mean, you talk about the Troubadour series. You're talking about expanding it. If we have a component that we have to do to sponsor that, I mean, that's an expense item.
Yes, it is.
Right? So that's something we have to look at, but that's an example of there are things like that that may still play out because our assumption around COVID is that's not an entire shutdown. There's going to be a clawback. We know living through wave one, we know we have curbside pickup and some venues will still stay open if we go to that. We also know that if we run patios and still have to do social distancing, we could still do that. And so along those lines, it's not going to be an entire shutdown approach that we did in 2020.
Well, I guess
It'll
what I'm
likely
saying
be
is something like the Troubadour series as an economic comeback, and it's
Yeah.
not a one-off event.
Right.
It's an entire season event.
So this revenue line will fund those kinds of assumptions, but we just looked at the revenue for now. Let's go through the rest of it in terms of find out what we cut and what still go ahead. So when we go to the administration side, again, it's a resourcing challenge to be able to continue to go meet with the particular members, stay on top of things. It's basically funding the office, keeping things going, and providing the labor pool. And I think
Insurance.
but do we still have the 10,000 hours, Angela, or no?
Yeah. Yeah, when we calculated this.
Right,
it
it's
would've
still
been-
there.
Yeah,
So essentially, we're buying about 10,000 hours of labor pool, 7,500 paid, 3,000 unpaid volunteers. So essentially, that amount of activity is still running the office and dealing with the membership at large. So we're still doing our survey, we're still doing our quarterly check-ins, we're still running a COVID-focused response team to deal with member issues that come up. And we're still involved in those other aspects that we do on a day-to-day
So I
basis.
guess my big question with respect to salaries and benefits then is we've been operating without an executive director now. We're
correct.
bringing in 3 summer students to help with a crunch period. Is there a need at this particular point in time? Can we do without an executive director for 2021? And if that's the
If I
case,
may, and with all due respect, I'm not sure you're aware of the amount of extra above and beyond extraordinarily numerous number of hours some of us are putting into this to keep this afloat right now. I've signed up for this board as a volunteer to come to meetings, to chair a committee, to help organize. I can tell you there are weeks I spend more on the BIA than my own job. So yes, we are in desperate need of an ED, desperate. And I'll tell you, if we don't have one, I'm resigning the moment that decision's made. I'm not going to do this for much longer. I didn't sign up for it. I'm bridging as best I can. And I know I'm not the only one on the board. There's people who won't be as vocal, who have gone way above and beyond their job to do this. So I think part of the reason we are falling apart is because we don't have an ED. We don't have somebody in the office providing that ongoing support. I mean, I do have another job, and sometimes, like, if Angela or Taylor have questions, or I'm trying to help organize the town halls or meetings with people, like, it's so discoordinated and disjointed, and balls are getting dropped, and we're not doing a good job. And that's just from my perspective of the hours I've put in, and I know there are a lot of others on the board who are doing that too. And it's not fair to us as volunteers. We didn't sign up for this. So
what's the impact on the downtown if there is no BIA?
I think that would be horrendous. We heard it today that we're probably taking on more of a responsibility because we don't have a DAC, as an example. One of our members mentioned that there used to be another group that had $250,000 worth of funding that did the things that we have to take on now.
Okay,
So
I'm asking this
yeah,
question.
yeah, I know. Well, it's
because
a
I
provocative
wanna know-
question because at the end of the day, you go, well, okay, so you don't have a downtown BIA. The world doesn't end. So if you're asking it from the lens of does the world end? No, the world continues. But
Can I just add maybe a couple of things that I think would happen without a BIA?
sure.
No planters, no beautification of downtown Oshawa. You're gonna ask the city to step in and do that in the middle of time when they're crunching their budget. I doubt it. No Christmas decorations, no Christmas lights, no place for businesses to go when they have concerns when someone breaks into their business, when they're looking for that support and help with writing grants. No coordinated efforts of the downtown businesses. We're just going to disperse out, and yeah, the downtown still exists. It sure will. Is it going to go backwards? I think so. And why did the BIA come back after it was disbanded in the first place? Because we didn't have a BIA in downtown Oshawa for a period of time.
How did Ajax do it? Ajax disbanded their BIA.
Sure. Falls on the city probably to deal with it.
Sure.
You know what? Actually, it's a great point to Cindy's point. Part of me says, you know what? I'm doing a CAO's job at the city. Like she was vocal. Now I'm kind of fired up going, you know how many hours I put into this thing? I go, I don't have to do this. I run another business that I have to do that job. I'm not letting that one slip. But I'm sitting here going, you know what? Sure, let the city take it on. I know not you, Rick. There's a couple of councillors that are like, let the BIA run itself, let it be fully funded. I think they're smart enough to recognize that if we don't exist, it's going to fall back on the city. And I think we had a member saying they pay enough in taxes. So, I'm getting squeezed because they don't think that they're getting enough for their tax dollar and they don't think we should be doing it. I would say, you know what, if people don't believe we're doing the best, providing the best value, I hear the dollar side of that. And I think we're providing huge value because of the number of hours and effort we do to communicate, get involved, fix things, accept the fact that we make mistakes and try to correct it. If someone really feels that the BIA isn't doing much, I'm happy to close this down. I don't want to do it,
I agree.
but I'm happy to go, look, it closes down. I don't need the extra work and the extra time to try to make this. I am a believer of it, and I think there is value. And I think we're at the corner of making a turn on some of these things. Yeah, COVID really caused us to rethink, which is a great item. To Cindy's point around the ED, we are floating day by day, week by week. We had a strategic plan. Somebody talked about a 22,000 vision. There's a 2020 vision at the city. We haven't revisited that. We started doing that at the end of last year, beginning of this year. We need an ED to really pull that together to go, so we can communicate to people, this is what 5 years looks like. So we can talk about funding and go, there's certainty in funding. There are some people that fed back going, how are these increases going to happen year after year after year? Can it go through the roof? I can't answer that. We don't really have that plan. We need somebody who can sit back and do that work. And it's not us. It needs to happen. It's not us as a board. We can input to it. I don't have the manpower to do it. I could do it. I just don't have it. I've got 3 other functions that I do. So,
I hear
so
you.
that's what the ED is really
When I
about.
sent these questions to the board, you do notice that I said these don't necessarily represent my personal position on this.
Absolutely.
What I'm trying to do is I keep hearing these comments for and against the BIA. And the reason why I brought this discussion up is because if the answer comes back unequivocally that yes, we do need a BIA for these reasons, and that's accepted, then perhaps we can put that discussion to bed. On the other hand, if Ajax, now you can say, well, they don't have a downtown core like we do. They have an awful lot of commercial and businesses going on in their downtown area. It's not the same as us, no. But the fact that they operate with a different model, all I'm saying is there a paradigm shift that needs to happen here? Are we operating the absolute best way that we can for the downtown? If we're hearing complaints that the cost factor is there and it's untenable for businesses, I think we have to listen to that. If there's another model that can address it without that, or if it falls back on the city, on the economic development department, pardon me, Sue, but if it falls back on the city to expand and take care of it that way, then maybe that's the way Ajax does it, and does it work?
Yep.
That's the other question.
And speaking of somebody who has zero political interest in what they say today, as a business owner, I'm aware that there's an Ontario BIA association. So obviously BIAs are functional in other jurisdictions. It's a thing. It's not going anywhere. Just because Ajax doesn't have one, I don't think that's setting a precedence to disband all BIAs across Ontario.
I'm not saying we should.
Number
I'm
one.
just
And
saying
number two,
there's a case in
we
point.
are a voice for businesses. We sit on WSI. We're working with DRPS. We're the first point of contact for businesses. Do you think businesses are going to get anywhere trying to go to the city first? I've tried to go to the city. It's hard. It's intimidating. It's overwhelming. I don't know where to go. They shuffle you around. Angela is here Monday to Friday as a point of contact. They go out to the businesses. It's a sense of community we need to build. Do we need to change the entire structure? I don't. Stop. Go ahead, Matt.
I think, Councillor, I think one of our members has already answered the question, right? Which is, and it resonated with me, which is, you know what, the taxation level is too high. They find value in the BIA. If, again, I bring back that word of balance, if the dollars and means of taxation rate can be balanced to the business owners, the property owners, we wouldn't have an issue. We'd be on par with other municipalities in Ontario. I think it's something that the city is going to have to take back with them and take a strong look at. Hate to use an old cliche, but when you point fingers, remember there's always some pointing back at you. What can the city do for the downtown?
Yeah. So this is good. I'm not taking any of
No.
this personally, and I certainly hope you don't either. All I'm saying is it's good to have this discussion, because if it's not had, people may be still going on with a siloed or cloistered opinion of, yes, we absolutely have to have the BIA. No, we absolutely don't. Is there a bridging mechanism? Are there other ways to do this? It's very good to have this discussion. Why? Because we're pressured by COVID. This is not a normal, this is not a year ago when we had these big plans for how we're going to put the snowball at the top of the hill and make Oshawa look like someplace else. Just a minute, let me finish. And so we're in a vastly different time. Is the current model the one that works, or does there have to be a step up by the city to help out to help make it work? That's why I think it's important to have this discussion, and there's no better time to have it than when we're trying to bring forward a budget, that if we have a large increase to it, you're likely not going to get the support from the city. And if that happens, where are we? So then does that mean then it falls back on the city to help more to make it happen? And if they don't want to do that, then let's just know, if you walk to the edge of the cliff, like I said, and you look over, you like where you're going to go. Because if you don't, you better step back and make something else happen.
Matt, you were going to make a point?
Yeah, I mean, it's a great question, right? There's no question about it. I mean, at the end of the day, I'm going to take my board hat off just because as a developer in the business now. You know what, we're looking to develop in other municipalities rather than Oshawa right now, in downtown specifically. Yeah, I squeezed one in as sort of a shortcut for us, another property that we are just starting on in downtown Oshawa, but it's not favorable for us right now. Again, so if we lose the BIA, the voice sort of a reason, as I would like to call, the city's going to have to pay something. Is the city going to be prepared to step up and spend $250,000 and be able to cohesive bring everything together? I don't think so. We've heard that loud and clear. But I'm the mindset of what Cindy said. You know what? We're at that breaking point where, you know what? Let's take our dollars as an organization and spend them on other municipalities that are welcome, that are ahead of downtown Oshawa currently.
I was a little discouraged with some of the feedback, and I'm discouraged with the question. It's not you personally, Rick. I know you're asking because I see it at council where people go, some people question, and I don't mind being questioned on value, but we're working damn hard and always accepting the fact that we've made mistakes and we've done different things. And everyone's doing it for the best intent of what the city has to offer and the membership. You know, I keep coming back to the point of going, if there's a better way, I'm always open for it. I just don't think, I'm happy if the city assumes it. I just don't think that's going to be good for the membership. And not because the city, I'm pointing fingers at the city. I like Matt's point. It's not about pointing one at them and 5 back at me or 4. It's more along the lines as, do they need to hear from 400 more voices? They're already struggling with 170,000 voices. I don't know what the numbers are, but you know, they're already struggling with that. I mean, you're hearing about making sure that the deliveries are there. At city council, I hear the divisiveness around the councillors. I want more money in my ward. I want more money in my ward. I want, like, you've seen that behavior, and I like the mayor. He's called everyone going, you're representatives of the city as a whole, not just your particular area, because there are people advocating for their particular areas, and those that are not representative of the downtown really are not supportive of the BIA. I haven't heard any of that support. I've heard a couple of councillors outrightly remark it, going, let them deal with themselves. We shouldn't have to deal with anything there. So, you know, from that standpoint, I get a little frustrated because we're all trying to act as better for the whole. A better downtown is good for the city. A better downtown is good for the business. A better downtown is good for the community. A better city is good for the downtown. Taylor talked about, if you want to stuff residential community or downtown and just stay in your own downtown bubble, that's fine. You feed yourselves, but that's not what we're about. We're about trying to bring in the full 170,000 people we have here, in addition to the hundreds of thousands that come outside to enjoy themselves here.
So here's an example for you.
So the BIA does that. I think that's what it's about, promotion, all that stuff.
I get that. The city put $200,000 into the hour program, Oshawa Unsheltered Residents. That's great. That's one segment of a problem downtown. So if the city can put $200,000 into that program with its plus and minuses to it, why can't the city put more money into the downtown? So that's what I'm saying. And if you're going to look at this in terms of a modeling, does the model need to be tweaked from the way it always was? Why should the entire burden go on the business owners downtown? Sure. If the benefit is supposed to be not just for them, but for the whole city to come and enjoy. So,
you know, respectfully, that's what, you know, again, I refer back to one of the members that spoke. They're happy to pay the levy, but it's just a full taxation dollar over. So if the city looks at it and gives some taxation relief and other means, they're okay.
Well, again, you either put the money in or you take the taxation away. Like I hear, but what I'm saying is does the model need to be tweaked? is there a better, an additional better way that we can?
Yeah, but this is a bigger
Yeah,
conversation,
and
I
I
think.
think
I get
also
that.
our toughest critics, and I'm grateful for all of the feedback we get, good, bad,
Yeah.
indifferent, because it holds us accountable. Nobody has said, well, nobody has brought forward a plan, disband the BIA and replace it with this, or let's restructure with that. There is value in the BIA. I agree. Like, we need to change things. We need to tweak it. We need to improve it. We need to do better in communication. We need to provide more for our members so they feel the value. I don't think there's a large cohort of people who think BIAs are a waste of time or, not valuable. Our issue is showing the value, demonstrating the value, and working with the city. I know they're doing the streetscape piece, and they recognize downtown needs a lot of infusion of resources, and that's the BIA's role. Maybe now we need to lean more on the city from the feedback, we're gathering today to lobby. How can we work better with the city? How can we coordinate services better? I guess I took great offense to disbanding the BIA because I know the amount of energy I've put in recently since we haven't had an ED. So to say we don't need one, I think is just an education piece for people who don't feel the need for a BIA, because there is definitely a need. It's just our job to make sure it's value added, like Ivana was saying, and like Matt said, I don't think people are against the BIA as a whole. They're against the unfairness in the taxation. So
To
looking
be
at
fair, the question was, do we need it? Right?
yes,
So,
that's your answer.
so I get that's your answer. So, the question was not absolutely disband the BIA. The question was, do we need it? And all I'm saying is, it's not a bad idea to go back and re-justify or re-examine current economic conditions, what's happening elsewhere, and just to make sure that the model we have is the model that works best. That's what
What's
this is
happening
about.
elsewhere are BIAs that are higher funded.
Yeah, but I'll tell you, can the city, look at themselves and say, hey, can we contribute and can we reclass the downtown at a different tax rate? Can we be proactive? And if they really want to spark and they really care about this downtown, let's go.
That I would support that fully.
Great.
There you go.
Peter, you wanted to make a point? Sorry.
Yeah, just because I've got more comments, but I thought I'd wait for that. I
Okay.
assume you're going to have them open, but just related here. So Matt, you were saying that you were developing properties in other towns and moving.
Yes.
That's what I do for a living.
Yep.
I've never once, and I need to ask you, have you looked to find out that if there's a BIA there, you will go there with your money or you won't?
I'm dealing with other BIAs and other municipalities right now.
But is that an aspect that isn't high up on your list of whether there's a BIA in that town where you're going to develop real estate?
No, but there already
No,
is.
thank you.
Yes.
Same thing with me.
Yep.
None. I own real estate in a lot of places with a lot of BIAs, and a lot of places with none whatsoever.
Yep.
And I've never once considered whether there's a BIA in town for me to go there to develop the
Right.
property. So I mean, that, and then you brought up the other point that, the taxation, whether we're going to, we're already taxed to death.
Yeah.
Well, we're taxed to death, and then we're levied on top of the tax to death. Right? So we've not only put butter on the sandwich, we put mayonnaise on the sandwich. So I don't understand what your point is with that one, because the only thing that'll happen if we disband the BIA, and I'm not advocating for it, is that there's no longer a levy, but we have to discuss whether the taxation is. They're two different things.
Oh, but that's what it.
And we have both of those.
I don't understand that.
And I don't have those on all of my properties, by the way, right? And actually, this is the highest BIA levy that I do pay. And I have properties in downtown Toronto that have BIAs that I'm not taxed and levied like this, right? So it is a valid argument whether the BIA should exist or not. I'm not saying that we shouldn't. But for instance, in Kitchener-Waterloo, where my stepson was part of that, was in charge of that, right? They disbanded it. The city funded it along with, at that time, BlackBerry, Microsoft, some other companies were backing it up, right? And Louise brought up the DAC, and that's exactly what's happening here, is this committee is overtaxed because the committee has expanded its reach and its scope, which isn't fair to the committee members. It certainly isn't fair to me and my tax, for sure. Because The social aspect of it is not what this is for. That's what Mr. Kerr's job is for at that building. And to drag that into this building is a disservice to everybody. I'm not here, and nor is my money here to deal with the WSI, which I don't even know what it is, and that was mentioned more than any other topic here, and the unsheltered. I didn't hear one damn, sorry. I didn't hear the largest part of it, which is bringing business to my tenant that is putting money in this pocket here. The unsheltered, the WSIB isn't helping that. It's not helping him or her.
So let's go down. It's a good segue to the events. What are we doing to put people on the street that brings it to your tenant? So that's a great segue, Peter. Thank you for that. Thanks for the questions and thanks for the dialogue. I appreciate the feedback from everyone. It's a healthy dialogue, which is important. So if I go down the administration line, we're pretty much almost at the COVID budget for the 2020, what we went to council with, slightly higher than what we have today in terms of the expense. Angela, do you want to talk about anything that's moving there that's of significance?
Well, with some of the purchases, that increases our insurance, right?
Right.
So that's a big
So
one.
insurance is a big moving piece there.
Then, of course, you have like professional fees have increased as well.
Right.
And then I think also networking, just a more realistic number, and putting things in that line that go there versus in marketing. Excuse me, like the exchange accounts and things like that.
So the IT support.
Yes, the
pieces that are
IT
there.
support and stuff are actually in administration where they should be, not down in promotion.
So not a lot of trim back there, but other than that, some increases that have come along our way just from other organizations that are increasing their fees to us.
Yeah.
So where it says memberships, it's $1,520 for the OBIA. If our budget's over 500K, well, it won't be.
It won't be, so that line would change, but
By how much?
but I'd have to look at it again. But I'm going to say, I'm just going to stab in the dark and say about 600.
Okay.
Okay.
It wouldn't be eliminated because we still have an OBIA membership.
Exactly. But when this was drafted, that was the number, because you know, when we first put it together, and I just didn't adjust that line.
So maybe
but
a
we
couple,
can,
couple small pieces that'll move.
yeah,
but
so it
we're
might
in the
move a little
ballpark.
bit lower, right?
Yeah, we're in the ballpark there.
I'll identify to check that one.
Any questions on that section of the budget? Okay, hearing none. In promotion, do you want to talk about the moving parts there, Angela?
So promotion, we left the same. Well, not totally the same, but right now, one of the things that I'm hearing, and not necessarily from our members, but I sort of, you know, we struggle in the office with being able to promote our businesses and promote globally for people to come downtown because there is no budget. The only thing that we can do is on social media. We can't do anything else. So we tried to keep that pretty much the ask for similar, so that we, even if we are in COVID, that we can actually do something about that a little more, be able to help out our members more and try to bring more people downtown. We have during COVID done a couple of campaigns on social media where it's, you know, a thank you to our members, a shop local, whether it was the video or the picture. You know, we try convincing things with social media takeover and other things, but we're really limited. And so this is trying to expand that some. Yes.
So I don't see it in here, and maybe it wouldn't be delineated specifically, but when it comes to a mixed media campaign, when we're talking about social media tools and so forth, where would the ACE Hub concept come into this? Because once it's up and running, it's zero cost, but it's one of those ways that we communicate that whole art, culture, and entertainment brand that we have. We have 17 venues and a couple more opening.
Because that's what brings people to downtown.
So it's not a project
Yeah.
and it's neither a cost nor a revenue. So what you're talking about has revenue attached to it and a cost, but so it's a good point. I mean,
It
we
is a
need,
cost though, because we haven't got it set up yet.
well, so to that
Yeah.
point, it's not in here, but your suggestion is it may or may pay for itself. But that project's not in here. We didn't have that project on the radar to do it. So
Wow, because once that's up and running, it's zero cost, and that's one thing.
who's
I
gonna
can
do that?
Firmly see that. will
Okay,
bring
Rick,
people
who's
down.
gonna do that? I mean, we're short of the resources, right? So do we
What's the
assign that to a?
priorities, right?
Sure.
So how much would it cost? Right.
So before you start getting nitpicky and things like that, and I'm saying nitpicky not to be mean, but the mixed media line item or the campaign has not been determined line by line. There are certain items that are addressed side by side, like we know that we're going to need social media tools to make the job easier to be able to do the videos and make sure that the pictures that are being put out
The software
and the software.
scheduling and the analytics tools and all of that kind of stuff, those are the tools that Angela's talking about. The mixed media campaign is a bit of a
It's a number of
it's
things.
an adjustable thing. Like, I mean, we have obviously our number, but within that, we can decide to do a bus ad or a billboard or various social media campaigns. Different things come up that we may want to promote on behalf of, if a bunch of community members decide to get together and they want to host a sidewalk sale or something like that, we can use some of that budget to promote that kind of thing, a Christmas campaign or a garage sale type of anything really. It's
So basically what we're saying is that those funds haven't been like line item out.
Yeah.
This is globally what we want. We have identified that there are certain things that we will need when we do the line item.
I like
right?
your idea.
But, yeah.
No, I like your idea. Here's what we need. We need the
Yes.
city to step up because they have IT staff, they have marketing people, PR people. What you're saying is this could help us feed ourselves. We need somebody to kickstart it. I'm more than happy to ask Paul Ralph if he would kick in some volunteer hours and whatever money we made to give back to pay for those hours.
But I thought
But-
that's what the website expense.
Well, no, it's about setting up with the tools. We haven't got the people in to run the program you want, to go out, get the advertising dollars, get all that stuff to run ACE, right? Like, I like the idea, except we don't have anyone to kickstart it. We have to add costs in. We have to go get someone to do that.
We don't
This-
even have an adequate website, Rick. Take it back to the city, take it to economic development. Get economic development to sponsor the ASAP program, and I understand what it is. Get them to develop that. The BIA doesn't even have a proper website. It's not functional.
So that's the problem. It's a great idea. We don't have the kickstart and there's not enough money to go around to do it. I like it. And this is where we come back and go, could the city do something? I like the member's point about, maybe that's the DAC component. It seems like it's something that'll help feed ourselves. In our current plan, we don't have anybody that can pick that up. So there's no organization around that. And again, it's the staffing at the city with the expertise that they can help us with it. They have a marketing team, they have a PR team, they have an IT team, they have all of that. We don't even have it to start. So I like the idea. I just don't know how to.
So 3.5 years I've been pushing this thing and getting nowhere. And then today I hear it's the city's responsibility.
No, I'm asking if the city that we talked about, could the city step up? I'm not pushing it on the city. You're bringing it here, and I think it's a good idea. It's not in this plan because we don't even have it organized to get it in here. What we need is somebody to put it together. And I think I would lobby the city to go, you have the resources. You don't have to add them. What you have to do is redirect them to help us get going.
Rather than a city who have a teaching setting, the students that are over in Mary Street. You've got a huge resource at Ontario Tech.
So it needs help to get off the ground, I guess is my point. I can't put more money to it. It just doesn't help us get the membership what they need. I like the idea. It's just not something that's going to happen with what we have in front of us. That's my issue. It's stuff like that I could see could be very beneficial, but we don't have the means to kickstart it. There's tons of those ideas. I mean, they want to bring the Memorial Cup here. I don't think we can do much with that. We'll go down to events and there's not much there for any of that stuff. And I think that's a great thing for the city. That's a great thing for the businesses and the community, the restaurants, the hotels that are here, to help do that. That doesn't, may not help some businesses, but it certainly brings that down here. But unfortunately, we don't have the money. People don't want to have to raise the levy. As it is for what's in front of us, it's going to go up slightly, but that's not in here. So it's a shame. We got to cut those things.
I just don't think you can afford not to do this. I've put forward a way that it can not only be self-funding, but to be a revenue generator on a modest level to pay the salary of a person that could run it.
And you've raised it several times, Rick, and I agree with you. Here's my ask of you. If it's a revenue generator, I'm happy to take that revenue and pay the city back for the effort they put in to make it work. I'm happy to forego that revenue. I would really ask them to invest in something they believe in too for us, and I'm happy to do that. I'm happy to make that commitment to go, look, they believe in it so much, they fronted it, made it happen, believe that the model works, created the revenue to come back and pay them for the effort they put in up front until we break even, and then the rest of it sits with us. I think that's a great model.
So where does this sit in terms of, we've heard about how the BIA needs to up its game and communicating with the members and providing a direct economic benefit service. If you had something like this, and it does bring people downtown and the businesses benefit from it, and it's zero cost to the businesses, how does that not enhance the reputation of the BIA?
It does.
The go-to?
It does. I keep saying
how
it's.
do we afford not to do this? I've heard your answer, but I mean, to go back to the city and ask them to pay for it, sure, you know what, after today, that's what I'm gonna do.
I think that makes sense. I think it's the only way to make it go forward now, because our members have said, not all of them, the ones that have responded, it said, it's tough. We can't take the increase. So that's the problem I have here is there's a lot of great ideas we thought could be very good to help people pay for the increase in terms of helping their businesses, but they just can't afford it. They're just saying they just can't get there. So we have to shelve these kinds of projects.
Right.
I agree with you. I think it should get off the ground. And my message would be, my alternative, I'm looking for a solution here like you, Rick. My alternative is to go, look, if the city really believes it's good for our downtown and they really believe the model, there's good business people there at the city. They should be able to see the ins and outs of this and go, yeah, it makes economic sense. Let's invest in the downtown. Instead of starting a DAC this year, put whatever it takes to start this thing that eventually will make money, pay them back. They'll get the return on whatever money they put up front, and then the rest comes to us.
Covering the costs. Seriously, like you have to have an administrator that rides herd on the organic content of this thing. And if that person's salary is covered by the minimal advertising revenue that you can bring in to cover it, then it's covered. And the benefits are huge for the downtown. That's all I'm saying. It's not something that's gonna be a huge revenue generator. It's designed to cover its costs. So
We don't have the fund
I'm
for it.
just gonna leave it there because
It's frustrating. I know. We just don't have it. We don't have the funding to get to this level. I can't make it work. I don't know. Well, I can. Tell me what else comes off.
I'm just gonna wait for the next item. I've said my piece, so I'm gonna explore a different avenue.
Okay. So that is down to $97,000. Anything else in there, Angela, that's moving significantly?
Well, both community development and economic development both dropped, right?
Yep.
So that is cutting programs significantly for those. I'm just taking a quick look. Those are the main things. We had to leave some the same, such as the website, because we pushed that off, phase 2. And we had to include some of the costs for this year because they made some programming so that we were able to get back-end access and agreed to hold off the invoice until next year for us.
Okay.
On banners, I know we had a pretty big outlay this past year on banners,
Yep.
right? Do you want to, is there enough there
So-
to?
Oh, the new
It's just
banners
for
or the?
replacements, basically, right?
Yeah, so that's just, the big one for banners is removal and install. And, if the marketing committee decides, you know what, we're just gonna leave the banners up and not change them out, then we don't use that funds, right? Or we
But the
redirect.
change out's winter to summer though, right?
Yes, it is. It's technically
You
winter
wanna
to
leave
summer.
snowflakes up for the summer, I'm okay with it.
Well, right
Save
now we
money,
have
but-
the summer one, so it'd be like, and I don't think we have the funds right now to even change those out.
Right, no, so they're going through this winter. It's about next winter.
Yeah, so, those are things that we need to look at, right?
Yeah, good point. Thank
To
you for
take,
that one.
take that into consideration more, but, that is what the cost, right?
Yeah, okay. Great. Next is events.
Okay, so.
You want to talk about the two that are still
Yep.
going ahead?
So for some reason, volunteer expenses are listed under events. I believe we still, no matter what, need to have volunteer expenses. There are a number of times when we have volunteers come in and help, such as on Tuesday. So, it's always nice to be able to feed them and make sure that, they're taken care of so that they'll come and help us when we need them again. And, not knowing what's happening and stuff, I tried to leave that budget line item alone just because of that. And then the only other thing we have in events is new events. Because like this year, we had the Troubadour series brought to us and asked to sponsor. I left some money in new events for us to have the ability to sponsor minimally for some events, right? But really, they're a big item, and who knows if most of the stuff is going to happen.
So my question to that would be, if the Memorial Cup doesn't happen, could the $2,500 that you see sitting there be augmented to the Troubadour series? Because the Troubadour series.
Okay,
runs 6
so
weeks.
hang on, Rick. So let me finish. So let me just address that first.
Yeah.
So when we did our discussion on events, the 2,500 for the Memorial Cup was actually earmarked for the Troubadour series. So it technically is already.
So that's $5,000 for the Troubadour.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well,
So
potentially.
we're really not
right?
running any events, essentially.
Yeah, we're not running any events. There's just a minimal amount to be able to sponsor someone else's event, like the Troubadour series.
And then there's the voluntary.
Yeah, the volunteer
honorariums for-
expenses, yeah.
For people who volunteer their time in
Yeah.
terms of, like you said, an expense to feed them or give them certain things that
Yeah.
they need. Okay. Any discussion on that? Andrea's not here, but I'm sure she's not happy that a lot of these things are cut. But
Yeah.
again, the assumption here is that we're not bringing people downtown for any events because of COVID. And having said that, I go, well, we've now made this decision that we're not doing it. If things go to the good, we're not able to do anything. So we're gonna have to ride this out till 2022. Unless city comes up with some funding. I'm not asking them for that, but if they can help out with that, then we can turn around and try to make the events work if we're given enough runway and time. So without putting the city on notice, they could help us out after they approve this budget, after the members approve it too, that if we do have a good year next year, we could probably run something, but not with funding that we have for this budget.
So the city's taken almost an $8 million hit over COVID, and that's may or may not be over and above the monies that they got from the government.
Yeah.
So it's going to be an interesting city budget this year.
Absolutely, and you're hearing that the tax levels are probably not something people are happy with too, so yeah.
Yeah, I mean, no recreational. I mean, the two sources of revenue for a municipality, and we're not included in the water and sewer, that's regional. So recreational fees and sponsorships.
Yeah.
And
No, fair
that's
enough.
been just completely off the board.
Yeah, and again, I'm not looking to the city to dig into their pockets and take on this responsibility. I'm just saying, hey, look, if things actually turn to the good, maybe the way out for us is again, we don't have the money, but the way out is to ask for a helping hand to see if they want to run events, if they agree to it. Lisa, you were going to ask something or say something?
Well, I have another friend that is in business, and she just said this is how she sees it. She says in 2019, they had an executive director and a budget, and they did Cars on King and some other things. And then 2020, the budget was ballooned bigger, much larger, and they had an executive director who spent like $150,000 on things, and there's really was no accountability. We really still haven't heard a lot about that, and that's disturbing. And so then somehow it came to light that there were these expenses. I don't know if that's because of the COVID thing or if someone finally said, this is a little out of control. So I think a lot of, and this person was saying that a lot of that money is just spent on those purchases that were kind of approved or not approved, like the movie thing and the igloos and this. There wasn't a lot of talk about that people heard about until like all of a sudden, and it was like igloos, where did that come from? So that's why, just go back to the 2019 thing, because stuff happened then and we don't know what's going to be happening in the future anyways. But besides all that, if you're looking at 2 years down the road, and if budgets keep increasing, and we've got buildings like the post office and rumored, and I put this in my letter, rumored about the clinic buildings, when those big chunk items aren't paying the levy anymore, then if the budgets historically are going to keep, being higher, then that levy is just going to be bigger on the ones left as those ones go to residential. So that, I don't know, has anybody thought about that?
We have, so it's a good question. Yes, thank you for that. You've raised that point. I think the issue is we haven't projected out. So to the point made earlier, we haven't really sat down and went, here's our 5-year outlook. Pretty hard to do it when you have COVID and you're still having to pivot day to day, week to week. We need that plan to figure out, hey, right now there's 492 paying members.
Yeah, I think there's 492 members with.
492 paying members. And so if that turns into 100 paying members.
No, I have a question. I've been through the list. I've
Okay.
been through from the website. There's.
Sorry, those are members that are registered with us. Now, I don't know what their arrangements are the other way. So just,
Can't find any numbers. I
sure,
can't find any numbers.
we'll have to deal with it. But the point being made is if that now falls on to 100 people, absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, absolutely. So we get the math on that one for sure.
Yeah.
But, and yeah, that's not sustainable.
If I go to the
We're
website.
hoping it goes the other way. We're hoping it
Yeah.
increases rather than
Yeah.
shrinks. But to your point,
When
if
I
it
go
shrinks,
to
it's a
the
problem.
website, there is a 7 and a little bit, an 8-page list of addresses. And I've gone through those addresses and I've put them street by street. And I'm sure that it's not up to date.
Okay.
And then I look at the number of businesses in the directory. And those are just the number of businesses who have allowed themselves to be posted to the directory. And that, of course, is an entirely different number than what's over here.
Yeah.
But that list that's posted. So if I wanted to say, so I'm a forced member here because I have to pay the levy. So I'm a stakeholder. I don't really want to be a member here. I have to be a member.
Yep.
Because it's forced on me through my taxation. Yep. And I say, well, maybe I would like to oppose it. And I'd like to contact 4 or 5 people. I have no access to that except to look at a list of addresses and try to figure out who's who. Because there is no membership list for me to access.
Sure.
As a member who pays a levy from a bank account at my bank, at my computer.
Mhm.
And I think that's wrong.
Okay.
But people cite privacy rules and different things. So I get very confused on all of that.
Yeah, we'll take that on governance. You're right. I'm not the best one to comment on that, but I take your point. Thanks for making
So
it.
it's very hard to even.
We'll get an answer. We have to get an
Come
answer.
to meetings.
Yeah.
Say, I thought there were more people here today.
Yep.
But you can't, I can't say you got to come to this meeting because I don't really know who to go to unless the people I know.
Fair enough. Yeah. Great.
Thank you.
Thank you. So events are 6,000 from what it was before, and needless to say, that's where a lot of the contribution and reductions coming from. And then last but not least is the physical improvements. Do you want to walk us through that?
Okay, so we've left minimal in winter greenery to possibly do the sun planters. Holiday lighting install removal, that's more of just installing and removing the wreaths. Then we've got the big expenditure for the Christmas lights that we held over.
Okay. And that's 74.
Yeah, for a total of 74.
And that gets us to a working budget of 375 in terms of disbursements and a balanced budget, no carryover.
Yeah.
That's the intent. So, any questions on all of that? Hearing none. Michael?
No questions.
Jeanette?
Yeah.
Sue?
I don't think Sue, did you say?
Yeah, sorry, I'm here. What did you want?
Any questions on the revised budget in front of us? I mean, you're around the table. You have a chance to input.
I think I'll stay quiet on it. Thank you.
You're staying safe, right?
I did email you my comments in the beginning of the budget, so I think you've addressed them.
Great, thank you. Thanks for that, Sue. When this is all over, either I'm buying you a beer or you're buying me one.
I drink champagne.
Okay, that's fine. Something public. That's good.
I guess she's buying.
Yeah.
Rats. We're so close.
That's good. Okay.
I'll maybe make a quick, if I can make a quick comment. Sure. If I was to tie everything together, taking all the feedback that I've heard, things that are at the board table, I think that the revised numbers are fairly well balanced given all the feedback. So yes, we're seeing a bit of an increase. I believe at what I'm hearing around the table. There's a lot of people that believe in the BI and the importance of what we do. And I do believe for us to see, you know, some sort of plan forward, we do need to steadily see the budget grow. But I think based on what we're seeing through some of the feedback, that definitely this helps bring it a little bit more balanced, I suppose, right? So to help address some of the concerns. So I think it's a job well done. I know it's been a lot of hard work for us to arrive at these numbers. So, you know, hats off to everyone at this table that's worked hard to try to make that happen. I know that we're all trying to do so to ultimately appease members, right? So
thanks for that. Yeah. Anything else? Rick? Me. Okay. Who wants to? I guess with that, I will move the budget to start the engagement process with membership for our AGM. Do I have a seconder?
I'll second.
Thanks, Isaac. All in favor?
Yes.
Michael?
Yes.
Great. Carried. Thank you. Okay, thank you. I'm going to adjust the agenda slightly here.
Do a motion for that?
For all the reports. Do we need one for all the reports?
Yes, we need a motion for all the reports.
Okay, to accept all the other reports that were given. Matt is a mover. Do I have a seconder? Rick, all in favor?
Yes.
Carried. Michael?
Yep.
Carried. Can I get the city report up front here? And there's two parts to that. I'm going to ask Rick to give his update on where the city's at. You did a little bit of it with development. And then Sue, can you speak to the parking report? Okay, or Rick. Okay, great. Thank you.
Yeah, Rick did. I was on the call, listened to it, but I know Rick, Councillor Kerr shared it, so I think he would be in a good position to give you the updates.
Can you give us both those pieces, Rick, in terms of what's going on at the city and the
I was
parking?
going to do an update on the troubadours, but
Oh,
we've
sure.
done that.
Yeah, okay.
So that's fine. The Biltmore Theater, it looks like it may hopefully be November, December. There's some trouble getting heritage level workmen to do work, but the owner and his able-bodied assistant are going ahead and working away on things. And you know, as we speak, I think it's very helpful to get that painted banner on the front because it just signifies something's coming. So that can be a very exciting addition to the downtown. It's generating some energy already. So that's that piece. With respect to the parking study, you know, it was interesting to hear them say only 61% of the parking is utilized. But you know, I gave them a perspective that I don't think they've heard before. And they keep going on about, you know, when you go to the Oshawa Center, sometimes you park and you walk, twice the distance that you would in the downtown. But here's the essential difference. When you go to the Oshawa Center and you know exactly where you want to go, you see the entrance, and there in front of you are 600 parking spaces. And you can see where there's some that are open and some that aren't. But you know it's all right there. And you're going to find one and you're going to go in the building. Here's the difference with the downtown. Committed downtown, there's the place you want to go and there's no parking. It's full of. So now you're faced with driving around trying to find one of those so-called 39% available spaces somewhere that could be a parking garage 400 meters away. And you don't know where they are. You get frustrated. So what do? You just say the heck with it. That's the difference. And now I like the sidewalk widening thing. I understand what it's supposed to do, but it also took out 23 parking spaces. And I know they took out parking spaces on Athol and they put some back. And I know I have this plan to flip the street lines over, move the parking to the south side so we can put parking in front of the Canada Post building and upwards of 15. They're saying 9, but we're adding some space back. And then we hear that Go Metrolinx now isn't going to use the bus terminal anymore. They're going to wipe out parking on Bond Street and William Street. Like, how many more of these on-street parking spaces are you going to go? So my answer to that was, okay, fine. Then how about we take the bus terminal and reline it for cars and put parking back in there? I mean, so I think that's going to be looked at. We're also going to look at trying to get some money back from the region and Go Metrolinx and DRT for lost city revenues. And now they get the funding for DRT, and that's going to essentially wipe out the parking on the south side of King from Center Street over to Mary. And then they're going to turn the corner because and go along Bond Street and wipe some more. So when does this stop? And when do our businesses get some parking that is known and is accessible for their operations? So that's a difficult process for the city to work through. I do have an idea I'm working on with a developer for a parking, and I can't give details right now. But I mean, to me, that's I guess where we're going to have to go is that, like downtown Toronto, you want to go onto Yonge Street, you go into the arcade of the Eaton Center, and that's, you have to go there. Maybe that's where it's going to evolve to.
So in our survey, parking came up, not necessarily the top. It came up as number 3, I think, or 4 of issues, Angela.
And what was ahead of it?
Yeah, well, there's other stuff was ahead of it, but
big stuff.
Yeah,
huge stuff.
Yeah,
so parking is right up there and always has been.
So I getting back to our members, a couple of things. Has that report made it through committee and council, or is it just winding its way through?
So, okay, thank you for the redirect. So it was an information meeting. There were no motions arising from it. The next step, there would be go back to the consultants and staff to take in the questions that were good questions are asked by councillors. And then October the 15th, there'll be a public input meeting. I would strongly encourage every BIA member, those we know about and those we don't, to attend that meeting and to give their feedback. That's the prime opportunity for them to do that.
So great. So that's we'll publish the date if you get us that. Do you
the
want
date's
to?
October 15th,
Yeah.
but the links and everything else, I'll make sure that BIA knows that and can communicate to the membership.
Right, which includes the results of the parking study or the report or whatever.
Yeah,
they'll
and it's
give
up on the
access to.
city's website right
We
now.
should promote that because at least our membership can see that. So
I believe we're adding the agenda for the AGM as well.
yeah. So hopefully can speak to that as well, but we need to put that link there. So, because that's an important issue for our members, they should at least know it's there. If they don't choose not to opine on it, that's fine.
And it's not an incredibly lengthy document.
No.
And it does also cover the city. So in terms of seniors residences, on-street parking, whatever else, there are different pieces that they're asked. It wasn't just about the downtown, but the downtown is prominently featured in there.
So, okay, great. And I guess given our member who's raised the point of DAC, how do we want to maybe address that back to the city, whether it's DAC or some other form? I pointed to you to say, hey, maybe they can take something on for us. How do we want to feed that back? Is it through you or through Sue and Kyle, or?
Yeah, and I've already had this discussion with the CAO.
Yeah.
So I think that's what I would do is after this meeting is to go back to the mayor and the CAO and just to see where we want to position this and how we would
And I don't want to hang it on them. I'm in the frustration of trying to
No,
get
but it's a
things done.
discussion item.
Yeah, I don't want to hang it on them, but I think there's an element here of we've heard from a couple of members around some of this may be shouldering on beyond the commitment of the BIA and responsibility and role to do it. Maybe our job is enablement or feedback or input, but not necessarily action
That's
to
certainly
do.
my role.
Yeah, so I guess coming back to you is going, I guess we're trying to form a better partnership with the city if they
Yeah.
take on the funding or the drive and we take on a different responsibility for some of these things. I'll take the feedback to
That's
heart
that
on that.
tweaking I was alluding to
Yeah.
earlier. Right?
Yeah, so I'm happy to help you with that one, but is it
No,
through
I-
you
I
that you'll
would
take it on?
welcome that.
Great, okay. Jeff?
I think, and no disrespect intended to anybody, but I think that the board here needs to look at what their real mandate is. And I believe that over time, because of the loss of the DAC committee and whatnot, the board and the BIA have taken on more things than what their true mandate according to the Municipal Act is. And I think for your own sake, for your own mental capacities, I heard Cindy loud and clear. Believe me, I know all about volunteering time. I know all about that. I think the board needs to sit back, take a breath, step back and look at it from outside and ask yourselves, what is the true mandate of the BIA? What can we do in downtown Oshawa? And you need to refocus on the important things. From what I understand, we're now looking at a budget of $375,000 proposed with no events. So I'm going to ask the question I asked earlier, and I don't expect an answer, but I would appreciate that the board consider this. If the budget has gone up roughly $100,000 since 2019, and you're running no events compared to what you ran in 2019, what is the return on investment for members? What are we getting for our levy? And if it's just communications and promotion, I think, in all honesty, back to the question that Rick asked earlier, Councillor Curran, sorry, do we need an executive director? I don't know.
Okay.
First thing we need to know is what are our priorities?
Yep.
What should we, as a BIA, be doing?
Yeah, fair enough.
And that drives the other question of, do you need a full-time executive director to do those things? Or have you just been stretched too far because you're too willing to help?
I wouldn't assume full-time, but I'd say, do we need somebody to organize? I think the answer, what you've heard around this table is we've got people doing that today, and part of it is just responding, and we are responding, and I think Cindy mentioned that as well, as you know, we're hanging on by the seat of our pants, I think, to some extent sometimes, at least I feel that way myself. And I don't think we can sustain that. So do we need an organizational type person? I'd say yes, whether it's full-time, how much, whatever. I think that's a fair question.
That's
Yep,
part
fair
of,
question.
I think that's what the board needs to do. Just step back, take a breath, take a look from outside. You know, you've identified that you're still looking at a 10% increase in levy.
Yeah.
And again, look at it from the membership's point of view. What's the return on investment? If we're gonna pay 10% more, knowing that the city budget's gonna be, well, I don't think I can use those words on a recording. The city's budget's gonna be disastrous. Like, it's a tough year. They've lost possibly up to $8 million because of COVID. That's gotta come back someplace. So, like I said, you really need to focus down to the brass tacks. Just what is essential. And if that means that you're doing things right now that you really shouldn't be doing, and whether in your heart you feel it's the right thing or not, when it comes right down to it, maybe you just need to say, hey, not our responsibility. And at that point, it becomes the city's responsibility.
Fair enough. Thanks.
They have to pick up the.
Yep. Yeah, well.
You don't ask them.
Yeah.
You don't ask them. Because if you ask, the answer is no.
Fair enough. It could fall in, but I've also heard councillors remark about, you know, they don't, there's interest not to take it on. So
But you also said that your 5-year strategic plan is expired.
Yeah.
So that there's none in place. So as part of that whole process, what is the real goal of the BIA?
So just to summarize, if I catch Jeff's point, is the point therefore that we go back and look at the municipal act, if you want to call it the bare bones mandate, and look at the scope of the mandate that we've taken on? Is the contention that if we clawed back to doing only this, that it would have a reductive impact on the budget? That's what it comes down to. So I think that's what we need to answer. If we only did this much, would that curtail people's or pull back people's workloads and therefore costs and associated costs? If the answer is there's not much difference, then okay, that's another discussion. But I think is that you're summarizing, that's what you're basically saying. So
Okay, very good. With that, can I get a motion to approve the city report?
What about Sue? Did Sue have anything?
She deferred to, Sue, did you have anything you want to add? You deferred to Rick on parking. Did you want to bring up anything?
Well, I don't want to take long. This has been a pretty long meeting. I can actually just give a quick update if you'd like on some projects that are going on. I think maybe I can share a bit of positive news that would be helpful for today's meeting. And it just a couple comes from way back. And I think what's become extremely apparent during COVID is downtown relies, we keep talking about feet on the street. It's not just feet on the street, it's also eyes on the street. And I just want to share that, I've been sitting on a lot of, for the Urban Institute, their webinars across Canada the last 6 months. And we are not the only downtown that's been experiencing these issues. It's been really tough during COVID because we need people on the street. I just want to share too that the first 3 months was very challenging here for economic development. There was no business development. The last 3 months, it's been an incredible turnaround. I don't know what's going on. Everyone sees it, the real estate. We've had several projects that were on hold that are now coming through. We have new projects. And I'll just do a quick there's some I can't share, obviously, because they are just beginning as private sector. Once the site plan approvals go through, then we, as you know, put them on the tour and growth. The Fazio apartments, the 10 that was probably started 2.5 years ago, he's now the permits in place, he's starting. So that'll be 20 apartments, but there's 10 new ones, I think, if you recall, on the upper floor of the original Fazio. Canada Post has been sold. I think everyone's aware of that. That'll be exciting redevelopment. Across the road from you at the BMO Building 38, Simcoe UHN, I was just speaking with them this last week, and they're going out to tender, and they will have occupancy by March 2021, which is exciting. There's another building that will be closing this week, and it'll be a large project in the downtown, and that would be for redevelopment. There's another development actually I started working on a year ago, and they are now moving ahead. That will be a large one in the downtown, which will be extremely exciting. The market is now fully tenanted, and they plan to open in December. I think a few of us know about 44 Bond, the redevelopment there, which would be very exciting, including restaurant, second floor, first floor, music. We all know about the Biltmore, which Odeon Music Hall Biltmore, which is so exciting. Julius Convesi is going to do a great job on that, and we've been working with them. 15 Simcoe, the old Mustache Club, he's got some good news. We're working with him on a possible tenant. Simcoe and King, we know that that's all tenanted now, with, of course, Joan Mansfield and some others, so that's good. I've got another developers looking for space downtown, which could bring a lot more people down. So I guess really just, I know that there's a lot of difficult times right now that we're facing downtown, but maybe it's the positive side in me. And sometimes we don't see what's underground, what's starting. And I always say when these projects come through, people are, wow, I didn't know this was going on. I go, yeah, but it's like you sow the seeds and you don't see anything for a long time. There's some really, we see a lot of the negative side. I'm seeing developers coming in from outside who they see this as a real gem downtown, and they're willing to put their money in, they're willing to support it. with all this development, it feeds into what we're trying to achieve, which is more amenities, better streetscape, more culture, more green space. It's going to be that reason, not just to live and work, but to spend time in downtown and to go downtown. So I just, right there is over 10 projects that I'm telling you about that are really coming to fruition. Yeah, they won't happen today. They won't happen tomorrow. They're taking time. Some are happening before the end of the year. We planned that we would have more than 20,000 new residents in downtown, and that will come to pass. So that's that in development, just to give you a little bit of, I think kind of happy, positive news. We also, I don't know if through Ontario Tech or Kyle, the last board meeting I wasn't on, if the Brilliant Solutions, which is we worked in collaboration with 6 business students from Ontario Tech and Teaching Cities. So Kyle and I were the supervisors for the students, and a lot of you, I think some on the board, we were interviewed, and it was about how to develop our downtown, and they got some great feedback. So working through all the, and they did a presentation at the Mayor's Task Force. So there was a comment about getting some of the students, and so we're really working through that, which they've been a great resource for us. Some really bright minds. We're working through the extension of the patio season as with COVID, and also curbside pickup. The MLES bylaw are really helpful in trying to help us move that along. So that is it for me. So thank you.
Thanks, Sue. Do I have a mover for the city report? Rick, seconder? Cindy? All in favor? Michael?
Yes.
Jeanette?
Yes.
Carried. We have to go in camera for one update. Michael, if I can get you to give the words that make us do that.
New business first.
No.
Can we do that at the end of the meeting so that these folks?
I think we're there. That's it. There's
Okay.
nothing else. There's no new business, is there? Nobody's put anything on the agenda, so I think we're at the end. We need to go with committee of the whole in camera and then arise from that, and we're done. So unless anybody has anything you want to add, I want to thank our members for coming again. Louise, thanks again. You've been around for a couple of meetings, so thank you for the time and effort with that. Lisa as well, and Peter, welcome. And Jeff, you've been around a couple of times as well, so thank you. With that, Michael, can you say the words?
The magic words are that the Board of Management, I motion that the Board of Management for the ODBIA enter into in-camera pursuant to section subclause 239(2)B of the Municipal Act.
Yes.
This meeting be closed to the public for reasons of personal matters about an identifiable individual, including local board employees and or members.
Great, thank you. That's the move. Thanks, folks. Do I have a seconder? Matt, all in favor? Jeanette?
Yes.
Matt? Michael?
Yep.
Carrie, thanks. Give us 1 second. We just got one more member leaving, and then we can go in camera. I think Taylor and, okay.
We're back on.
Welcome back. Michael, do you want to raise the motion?
Yes, motion that the Board of Management for the Oshawa Downtown Business Improvement Area rise from our in-camera session.
Do I have a seconder? Rick? All in favor? Jeanette?
Yes.
Michael?
Yes.
Carried.
Now, I'd like to bring another motion that the Board of Management for the Oshawa Downtown Business Improvement Area accept the discussions in camera.
Seconder? Matt? All in favor?
Yes.
Michael?
Yes.
Carried, thank you. That brings us to the end of the meeting. Thanks again. I know we went over.
I'd like to bring a motion to adjourn the meeting.
Michael, seconded by Rick. All in favor? Everybody's there. Thank you. Thanks, guys. Look for the new videos about the budget coming to a theater near you.
Oh my gosh.